A Monday edition of the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And, of course, you can watch the show live on our YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Ennings producing today's show. You out there, what's going on, everybody? What a day. What a busy Monday it is. Yes, Jeff, it is game day. Here we go. Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys tonight. You can hear the game live on 97.3 ESPN. Looking forward to the conversation about the game all day today. And obviously, there's a lot going on. We got the weekend that was. We will get into that as plenty of things happened over the weekend that we can all dive into and react to. But really, reaction to today, what happened is the Sixers Media Day taking place up in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Danny Green, also Doc Rivers, and Daryl Morey, among others, all speaking today. We will be talking to Tyrese Maxey today here on the Sports Bash. So mark your calendars, mark your time. 4:25 today, right around 4:25, 4:30, somewhere in between that range. Tyrese Maxey will be on the show, and we will talk to him about what's going on, his role, and obviously his friendship with Ben Simmons. Those two guys are Clutch Sports clients. He worked out with Ben this summer, so I'll get a little bit of insight from him on his relationship with Ben and everything that's going on. I really think on a day where the Eagles and Cowboys are set to go, and obviously the Phillies are still kind of hanging on here as they play the Braves, that series. You know, yesterday the Phillies lost that game 6-0, and the Braves took care of their business. It is going to be a monumental effort for the Phillies to get into the playoffs. Even if they sweep the Braves, it does not look good for Philadelphia to get into the playoffs, even with a sweep at this point. So where do we start today? Well, we got Eagles and Cowboys, week 3 in the NFL, all that good stuff. The Giants lose again. Washington football team, they lose. So both teams in the NFC East lost yesterday. So the winner tonight between Philadelphia and Dallas has an opportunity to get to 2-1 with one team 1-2 and the other team 0-3. And then obviously the loser tonight would also be 1-2. So you can get a nice little cushion. I want a little cushion, not a big one, in the NFC East. With a win tonight, you'd be in sole possession of first place with the Giants 0-3 and Washington 1-2. The loser tonight would be 1-2. So week 3 in the NFL, so many observations. I tweeted out at Mike Gill Show. Follow me there and obviously be a part of the show. We always love the engagement and love for you to be a part of the program. Here's what I say, or this is what I asked on Twitter, which a lot of people have been, since the Eagles did not play yesterday, I tweeted out last night and wanted to kind of get a little bit of insight from you. Your number one NFL observation through 3 weeks is fill in the blanks. 609-403-0973. That's the text board, 609-403-0973. Download the free mobile app, and you can message us through the app. Your number one NFL observation through 3 weeks is fill in the blank for me. I will get to those throughout the show. I'll react to them as well. We have a busy show today. I love the Monday shows. We have so much to get into. But really, all 4 teams are in play. I mean, we could technically talk some Flyers if you wanted to. I mean, they have had camp. They have tons of stuff going on at camp, which you can get all the details on our website, 973ESPN.com. Kevin Durso has been at training camp with the Flyers, and he has Flyers notes up on our website. Follow on the website or get the alerts on your phone. You can specifically ask for Flyers alerts, and they will get sent to your phone after each and every day at training camp from Kevin Durso. So I want to go with Sixers Media Day for this, because the theme, there was 2 really big themes today at Sixers Media Day. The 2 big themes today at Sixers Media Day, and this can kind of be Eagles as well. Like, you can wrap one of the themes into all 4 Philly sports teams. But Sixers Media Day today turned into 2 things. One, the players say they want Ben Simmons back. Every single player, not one person said, you know what, he's a baby, get rid of him, we're ready to move on. That was not the message from anybody today. And maybe that is in their mind, the message, but nobody said that. And guess what? At no point did anybody say something that you felt like, this guy is full of baloney. The message was clear. From Doc Rivers all the way down to a guy I never heard of, I felt bad for, because Joel Embiid spoke, and then the Sixers put a guy I haven't heard of before out on the media table, and I felt like no one had a question for this poor guy, but somebody, I think it was Keith Pompey from the Inquirer, just fired a question so that somebody asked him something. Down to that guy. All sound as if they want Ben Simmons back on this basketball team. Number two. So the number one message I would take is from the players, from Doc, and from Daryl. They want Ben Simmons back here. That is the biggest theme of the day, that the entire organization wants Ben Simmons back. Now, they might just be saying that. I'm not saying that that's 100% accurate, but they all have said it. But number two, this day turned into a fans versus players conversation. Somewhere along the line, it turned into this, it's the fans' fault versus the players. And that, to me, is the fans. The irony of this whole thing is the fans taking... Do you see the irony of this whole thing? Right? Do you see the irony here? Tobias Harris, he came out and said 100% he thinks that Ben takes the fans personally. Right? Tobias Harris said he thinks that Ben takes the fans personally. Like, he thinks with the fans getting on him that he takes it personal. And Tobias said everybody handles it differently. He admitted that he had to get used to how to handle it. Tobias Harris or anybody else, they're not blaming the fans. Nobody said our fans suck, our fans care too much, our fans are too passionate. Nobody said that. Oddly, the fans take it personal, like you're being criticized. It's a weird dynamic here. The fans are now turning into Ben Simmons. Well, you're telling us that we're wrong? Blah, blah, blah. No, nobody's blaming the fans. Do you see the irony here? The fans are now acting immature. The fans have now turned into, you're blaming us? Nobody blamed the fans. Tobias Harris and all the other members said this is a tough place to play. They didn't say, so we're blaming you. They said this is a tough place to play, and everybody handles it differently. Ben Simmons obviously doesn't handle it the same way that Joel Embiid does. That's a different conversation. You could say Ben Simmons is mentally weaker than Joel Embiid is. Fine. No one's arguing with that. That's obvious. Tobias Harris acknowledged that the relationship with the Philly fans is a factor with Ben. He didn't say Ben thinks the fans suck. He just said he doesn't handle them as well as somebody else does. The irony is that the fans themselves have now gotten to this point where they're like, how dare you blame the fans? We supported this guy. Nobody's blaming the fans. Doc Rivers says Philly is a tough place to play when asked about reasons Ben Simmons wants to be traded. He's not blaming the fans. He's just saying Ben Simmons has a tough time dealing with the fans. He's not saying Ben Simmons says the fans stink. The irony of this is this. The fans cheer Ben Simmons on, and 5 minutes later, they want him gone. When he doesn't do what they want, it's not like 100%. Stop acting like the fans 100% embrace everybody. They embrace them when there's something to embrace. The second there's something to not embrace, they let that guy know it. People act like they're this perfect relationship between the fans and the players that how dare. You can act however you want, but that doesn't mean that the players handle it the same way. Every person handles things differently. Every person reacts differently. Everybody has a different opinion. Your opinion and my opinion, maybe they don't jive. I don't care. You're very entitled to think what you want to think. You are very entitled to think and act and believe what you want. There are people on Twitter. I don't follow you. You follow me. If you don't like my opinions, you can unfollow me. Your opinions are always wrong. You're always wrong. Okay, if you don't agree with my opinion, it's real easy. Unfollow. Why follow me if you never agree with my opinions? I don't choose to follow you. You as a fan, don't you see the irony here? You have now become Ben Simmons. You're now getting offended by the fact that the Sixers are saying that this is a hard place to play instead of embracing it, right? Instead of embracing it and saying, you're damn right this is a tough place to play. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Instead, you're saying, it's not our fault. You're blaming us for this? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. You know, Joel Embiid had a lot to say today. I thought Joel Embiid was raw. He was real. And he left it all out there. He said, look, I don't care about this being my team. Joel Embiid is interesting. You know, he, to me, if he could elaborate on the Philly fans needing to be better, he said, right? He was asked about that. He says, the first thing I'll say is the fans have the right to act the way they want to, right? That's exactly what he said. And he said, when I said be better, I'm looking at it as a whole. I think about what can happen in the future. I think about whether we have another max salary open we're chasing, a free agent that wants to come here. I don't want fans to be kind of scare people off. Everyone knows Philly is a tough city. They love sports. They're going to tell you how it is, and I love it. I personally don't have any problems with it. But I also look at it in a way that that's not built, that not everybody is built the same. Nowhere did Joel Embiid say the fans are the issue. He just said, look, if you want to put a resume together as a fan, you ever wonder why no free agent NBA player has signed here? I mean, seriously. Has anybody ever wondered why Philadelphia can't get a big-name free agent? And I'm not saying that's the reason, but that's what Joel Embiid is putting out there. Hey, he says, I love it here. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I know it's a tough city. I love that, but I can handle it. Maybe Kevin Durant can't handle it. Maybe Kyrie Irving can't handle that. Maybe those guys won't consider ever playing here because of that. You go keep doing what you want to do. It's like you want to apply for a job, you're going to put your best foot forward. And if you are applying for a free agent, is having this strained relationship the best foot forward? Probably not. Joel Embiid said, the way I handle it is different from a guy who might not want to come here. They might not want to play under that type of pressure. They might not play well and might think it's not the best place for them to be because of the fans. That's what I meant by that. He didn't say it's your fault. Nobody says it's your fault. 609-403-0973. Text us through the free mobile app. The irony, again, of this whole thing is, hey, you're saying that we're the problem. You've essentially become Ben Simmons, right? You've essentially become Ben Simmons. The tone about the fans was clearly more negative than positive. I got a tweet. Are you kidding me? Nobody criticized the fans at all. All the people said was, it's not for everybody. Are the fans now walking back that this isn't a tough place to play? Which one is it? Is it a tough place to play? Are you passionate? Do you support or do you not? You can't have both. You're either a tough place to play, passionate and support the team, or you're not. You can't be both. You can't be mad that a player says, I don't want that. Right? Tobias Harris, I think, was as real as possible. He said it 100% affected Ben. He didn't say the fans suck. He said that's why he thinks in his mind that Ben Simmons doesn't want to be here anymore. And if that's the reason, that's the reason. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're terrible. It doesn't mean you're bad fans. No one's saying that. Show me where it says the players think the fans suck. Pete and Vineland. Mike, Philly is no tougher a place to play than anywhere else. It's only tough for Ben because he isn't willing to put in the work to get better. Every great player works to get better in the offseason, and Ben doesn't. 5 years in, the kid can't hit a 10-foot jumper. He brought it all on himself. Even he gets traded, it won't be long before he's getting booed by those fans. He is mentally fragile and can't take the criticism. That's not a good combo for playing professional sports. You might be right, Pete. But I got to be honest with you. Yes, everywhere is tough to play professional sports. There's a lot of pressure, the social media aspect of it. Look, don't be a fan and act like nobody crushes Ben Simmons on social media, okay? Don't be a fan and act like everybody supports Ben Simmons in the arena, on social media. Sure, people were clapping for him to make free throws. People have supported Ben Simmons. It doesn't matter that in your mind as a fan, maybe it's only 10% of the people. But those 10% of the people, guess what? They still get their message to him, and he doesn't like it. So, yes, Philly is tougher to play than Salt Lake City, Utah. Philly is tougher to play than in Sacramento. Philly is tougher to play than in Orlando. There are certain markets where the fan base just doesn't care as much. There are certain fan bases where they don't live and die on Tuesday night in February. There are certain places where a loss on March 2nd doesn't matter to those fans as much that it matters to these fans. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a knock. That's not being negative. That's just saying everybody handles the reaction and the criticism differently. It's a different conversation to say Ben is mentally weak. Maybe he is. I'm not going to disagree with that. If that's his reason that he doesn't want to be here anymore, then yes. If he can't handle the criticism and the fans, yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. But at no point did anybody today blame the fans or say it's the fans' fault. They just said, hey, look, whatever criticism Ben gets, there could be 5 million people that support him. There might be 500 that hate him. I think the numbers are a little skewed on that right there, by the way. But I'm going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt. 5 million love Ben, 500 hate him. Well, guess what? Those 500 apparently bother him. It is what it is. And that doesn't mean he's right. He would be 100% in the wrong in allowing that to bother him. But guess what? That's who he is. Mike, let's not be ignorant about the situation. It's in the Sixers' best interest to act like they want him back in order to maintain his trade value. If the players and coach crush him, his trade value goes, of course. You're not saying anything of value there. I mean, that was a waste of my breath. No one's being ignorant about this. Nobody expected the Sixers to come out today and say, you know what, we don't want Ben Simmons here. Every single person was lock, stock, and barrel that they want him back. Ben Soft, bottom line, if he can't handle the criticism, he's not cut out for this league. I think being a 3-time All-Star, first-team All-NBA defender would say differently. That's just the way I would look at it. People act like this guy is is like the 15th man on a team. Whether all of the the dislike that people have about his game, he's still a 3-time All-Star, first team All-NBA, and the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's not that mentally weak. He just happens to not care for being ripped for everything that he does. And guess what? You're not wrong to rip him. That's just his agenda. That's his priority. That's his prerogative, I guess I should say. All right, so we start there. And you can react, 609-403-0973. Sports Bash is brought to you by Dell for your small business needs. Call a Dell Technologies advisor today. Hey, when we come back, Eagles and Cowboys tonight. Kevin Harlan. Who's better at calling the game than Kevin Harlan? In my opinion, nobody. He's my favorite guy to listen to. And he joins me next. He'll call tonight's Eagles and Cowboys game on national radio, Westwood One, to give us a little perspective on this NFC East rivalry. Kevin Harlan joins me next. Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. You'll hear the Eagles and the Cowboys tonight, Monday Night Football. Kevin Harlan is on the call, along with Kurt Warner, who's got a great story himself. But when you hear Kevin Harlan, you know you're listening to a big game. And when you hear Kevin Harlan right here on the Sports Bash, you know I'm juiced up. Kevin, welcome back, man. How you been?
To the broadcast tonight.
Do we have Kevin? Do I hear Kevin? How about that? I got you.
Can you hear me now?
I got you now. How are you?
Like in a cell phone commercial. Thank you for the kind words, and I'm anxious to see the Eagles tonight, see if they can get the 2 wins. They've had some recent success against the Cowboys. I would tell you, though, that this Dallas team, as I'm sure you've talked about on your show, with Prescott, they're just a different team, and they've got maybe the best core of young receivers in pro football, and their offensive numbers reflect that. So the Eagle defense will be challenged significantly, I think, tonight.
Yeah, the whole Prescott coming back. I mean, obviously, people were wondering what they were going to get from him. And this guy didn't play the last 11 weeks. Then he didn't play in preseason, and he came out firing. And he's got a ton of weapons here. So, obviously, offensively, they're very good. But did they improve enough defensively in your mind when you've prepared for this game? What stands out about that side of the ball? Because I think we all acknowledge they're very good offensively, but where are they defensively?
Well, they got a couple guys added to this team. Micah Parsons, Penn State, you're familiar with him clearly. He's been terrific so far. He had like 8, 9 quarterback pressures on the Chargers, Justin Herbert's last week in Los Angeles. We saw Dallas week 1 in Tampa on the season opening Thursday game against the champion Buccaneers. He did not look lost. If you watch the HBO Hard Knocks series, you could see that just the way the coaches and the veterans saw the kid and his personality and kind of a big-time program that he came from, certainly, you know, that makes him a very unique player. He's not like big, physical, strong, but he is fast and has, you know, the coverage instincts of a safety, and he's got the aggressiveness of a defensive lineman, but probably the great in-between game of a linebacker. So I think trying to figure out where he belongs and how best to use him will be Dan Quinn's charge this season. Quinn is the new defensive coordinator from the Cowboys. He just came from Atlanta where they had bad defense. So yeah. I don't know how this league works sometimes, but I do think that Quinn gives them a different feel defensively, and I think that they're going to they're going to push every button they can to get some kind of feel and success on that side of the ball, because clearly on the offensive side, they've got a lot of answers there.
They sure do. And obviously, a lot of it is Dak Prescott being back. But, you know, they've got weapons, too. Lamb, and it looks like Cooper's going to play. Cooper has carved up the Eagles since the trade. Elliott, and how they use Pollard should be interesting tonight as well. It'll be they only scored 20 last week on the road in L.A. against a good Chargers team. So it'll be interesting to see who they kind of lean on tonight.
Yeah, it will be. I think that Dak, you know, when he was going through this stuff in the preseason, I know a great concern for the Cowboys when he hurt his shoulder early in camp, and as you just said a second ago, you know, didn't play in preseason. There was a great concern that the combination of him coming back with the completely reconstructed ankle and just the mental side of that rehab and how it would play as he plants his feet, when it would get messy in the pocket and bodies are on the ground and he's trying to, you know, jump over guys to get his footing and shoot the ball downfield. If he were thinking of that and trying to do too much with his arm, then that probably was one of the things that caused the issue. On the reverse side, if the arm isn't there, he might try to overcompensate by using other parts of his body or things that aren't natural. And now he really has screwed up his arm, and the leg is not, you know, kind of checked that box in his mind about being football worthy. So there are some pretty important things here at play. They did consult with the New York Yankees and the Texas Rangers of Major League Baseball, because clearly in baseball history, If a pitcher's having arm issues, they may overcompensate by throwing differently, using different parts of the body they shouldn't. Or if they've got a leg injury, now they do more with their arm and stress that out. So there's all this at play when they're trying to figure out where Prescott is with his arm. Now, clearly they wanted him to play this summer. It didn't work out, but I got to tell you, like I said, I saw him in Tampa week 1. It looked like he had not missed a snap.
Nope. He looked pretty darn good. Kevin Harlan will call the action tonight, Eagles and Cowboys. Now, what's the vibe around this Eagles? Much different, I'm sure, than the team last year, Kevin, I got to be honest. I know it was a weird season with COVID and the way you guys called games and the access that you got, but it was a painful season to watch outside of the fact there was no fans and the interaction was bad. That team was just not fun. Do you feel that there is a different vibe with this young team? But it's a weird mix. It's got real young skill players, but a veteran offensive line who now lost 2 players already, the same problems they had last year. What's the vibe around Philly coming into tonight?
I think it really centers around Hurts and just what that quarterback is going to look like. Is this really what they're banking on? I mean, is this the guy? Or do they feel like, we may be in the midst of a 4, 5, 6-win season, which is going to get us good draft position. Let's begin to set our eyes on what the college quarterback, class looks like. And as we know, that's no better than 50-50, right? I mean, and if you're expecting a rookie quarterback to come in, as you saw yesterday, most recently with Mac Jones, who looked terrific in the first 2 games, and then threw 3 picks yesterday. I don't know if really you can sense where a team's going unless they have, basically said, this is our quarterback, this is who we're riding with, he is our future. And I don't know, nationally, I don't know if the message is not maybe it's clear in Philadelphia and where you are, but I think nationally it's not clear.
Right.
Is Hurts the guy, or is he just kind of the guy right now? And I think that probably is the beginning of the conversation.
It's like a lot of young players in this league, Kevin, right? It's on-the-job training. And if you can produce while you're training, you're the guy. And if you can't produce while you're training, you might not be the guy. It's an odd dynamic in the NFL.
It is. And listen, he's a winner. He was a winner at Alabama, but then Saban chose Tua. And he was a winner at Oklahoma, as we saw, and went to a completely different system. Basically used his God-given skills and his running and all the different things he had picked up, in the years at Alabama, and made Oklahoma the team they were a season ago. So listen, or 2 years ago. So we know that he is a talented, winning quarterback. But do you make your whole offense around his skill set, or do you make his skill set and develop it and make it more of a traditional NFL offense? And I don't know. We've had the Cam Newtons, we've got Lamar Jackson, and I don't know that the league still has settled on if a particular running style of quarterback can win in this league. Now, Lamar Jackson won, all the games he won last year, and he was the MVP the year before. And, he's proven, and we just saw what he did on Sunday night against Kansas City with that win. And then we saw them leak out one yesterday in Detroit. So I just don't know if an organization feels like we're going with the running quarterback who predominantly runs, not that Hurts can't throw or that Jackson can't throw, but that's kind of their calling card. Is that the best way to get to the championship level again? Or do you say, we need to develop an offensive line, the skill guys, all the different parts of the team, and wait until that quarterback falls in our lap. And until he does, we're as good with Hurts as we are maybe with a journeyman quarterback, right? I mean, or maybe Hurts now develops and is a chameleon-like, and he went from one system in Alabama to another system in Oklahoma. Now he's in a third system in the NFL. Maybe we sit and we wait for him to, get a chance to really sink his teeth into an NFL offense and work with Sirianni, who has had, success and experience working with offenses. I mean, these are all things that I'm sure are daily conversations in that organization, but in that personnel department, say, is this the guy? Listen, if they win tonight in Dallas and he beats Dak Prescott, who's the perfect blend, I think, of passing and running. He runs when he needs to, and he's good at it, but he wants to stay in the pocket and can throw off platform, and I get all that. But he clearly, I think he even feels I'm better when I stand tall in the pocket, may take a hit, but give the routes a chance to mature. And I think that we just don't know that much on Hurts yet. We just don't. The body work is too limited. Who knows, though, right? I mean, you just don't know sometimes what these guys can do.
Yeah, it's we're watching it unfold before our eyes. Now, Kevin Harlan will
Right.
call the action tonight, Westwood One Radio on the national call. Eagles, Dallas, is it something? Is it just manufactured in this region? Dallas week, Dallas fans, the Eagles hate Dallas. Is that the same feeling when you get prepared for this game? Do you feel that? Because most people feel that the Dallas fans don't care much about the Eagles and that it's all one-sided. When you do an Eagles-Cowboys game, does it feel different like, when you do a Bears and Green Bay game or one of the other rivalries around the league?
Well, you've hit a very good point. I mean, I think that, for football fans, anytime it's Eagles, Cowboys, anytime it's anybody in that division against the other, I do think that raises the bar a little bit. So, yeah, but I think because the Eagles are so unknown with the new coach and kind of, just trying to figure out what they are at quarterback and what is their identity and who are the name players. I see Zach Ertz's name on there, but some of these other guys are newer guys. Like I know Lane Johnson's name and I know Fletcher Cox. Like I know some of these guys, but like you said, it's a kind of a transition time right now. But I do think because the teams know each other so well, it always makes for a competitive game. Listen, I whenever the Cowboys are on, they could be playing who knows who, and it's always going to take center stage. They just are. And do Cowboy fans care about the Eagles? Cowboy fans care about one thing. They care about the Cowboys, and so
that's right.
That's what's made Dak's return and Mike McCarthy. Remember, as you do, last year they lost Dak. They went on a tailspin. They started 4 different quarterbacks, including Dak last year. They had Andy Dalton on the team. They finished with 4 wins in the last 5 weeks. And McCarthy's way of doing stuff as he carries over from Green Bay is probably different than it was for Jason. So McCarthy comes in here, he's got a team that has got the swagger that they've got already. He comes in with kind of a new system, but they all kind of began to take the same size piece out of the pie late in the season. They all kind of bought in. And they all, in the 4-1 record, reflected that. Now they carry that momentum into the offseason. Dak is back, and they've had an impressive win in Los Angeles. They barely lost in Tampa. I think they're top 5 offense in pro football right now. I think they are what they seem to be, which is an improved team, second year in the system, and their starting quarterback is back. I think those are pretty powerful things.
Well, it all happens tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin Harlan has the national call with Kurt Warner on Westwood One Radio. Kevin, it's always great to catch up, man. I appreciate you spending a couple minutes with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Nice to be on. We'll talk soon. Take care.
That's Kevin Harlan, of course, from Westwood One Radio. He's the best when it comes to calling a game for me. If I could pick one guy to call them all, I pick Kevin Harlan, man. I enjoy his calls. All right, when we come back, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City jumps on board. We'll get his perspective on everything. Are the Phillies still alive? Not really. The Eagles and Cowboys tonight, plus Media Day today, took center stage. What was the number one takeaway from Mike? He'll tell us coming up next. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Busy weekend. Let's jump right into it. We saw a lot of stuff. All the sports are in play. We got a couple thoughts from Mike McGarry. Thanks to Kevin Harlan for jumping on board today. Of course, here you can listen to the Eagles and the Cowboys. But, Mike, we got so much to dive into, so let's not waste any time. All right. Number one, are the Phillies out?
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
they are done.
We moved on from them. All right. Biggest takeaway from Sixers Media Day today was?
To me, it's that they haven't solved their biggest problem, and that is getting a player who can create offense for himself and his teammates off the dribble in the fourth quarter of playoff games. Whether or not the Ben Simmons holdout is resolved, how it's resolved at this point, we'll see, but they don't have that player on the roster. It could be Tyrese Maxey. I think he's too young. I think it's too much for him at this point in his career. They don't have that player on the roster. And when they don't have that player on that roster, they're wasting Joel Embiid's prime opportunities to win a championship.
All right. So a big focus today seemed to be, Mike, the fans against the players, right? Did you take it as the Sixers are blaming their fans, or the messaging was some just handled the fans differently than others?
I think it was kind of, we're not blaming the fans, but we would like the fans to be nicer to us, kind of. And I think, in Philadelphia especially, we can all agree that fans in the Northeast, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia are intense and passionate about their sports. I think we can all agree in different pockets of the country. I think in Los Angeles, the Dodgers and the Lakers are a big focus. I think if you're down south, if you're a quarterback of an SEC school, you're under a lot of pressure from the fans and stuff like that. College football is big. But I just think this narrative, this discussion of, the fans are booing. The fans too tough. Do not people not want to come here because of the fans? I think it's got to stop. It kind of is what it is in Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. And I think it just gets way, way, way too much attention and blown out of proportion in Philadelphia.
Right. Well, Tobias Harris, I thought, said something. He admitted, he said he 100% feels that the fans affected Ben Simmons. So I don't think he's saying the fans are wrong or they stink. I think he's just saying that's what got to Ben. Everybody's different. Everybody handles it differently. He admitted that he had to learn how to deal with it, but he feels like he's gotten there. So I don't think that the team is essentially saying that the fans are not good. It's that everybody handles them differently, no?
Yeah, and history is littered with athletes in Philadelphia and in New York and in Boston who have not been able to handle the intensity and the media coverage and the passion and energy from the fans. I mean, you look at Francisco Lindor of the Mets. There's a question now: is he built to handle New York?
Well, but you know this as well as I do. I mean, people act like everybody was so supportive of Ben Simmons. There were people 2-3 years ago, soon as they found out this guy wasn't going to shoot, he sucks, get him out of here. It might not have been the majority, but people act like it was 100% of people who supported this guy. They might have supported him when he wasn't making free throws, and then the second he missed them, they didn't. So people act like, we were so supportive of this guy. That's not really the case.
Well, yeah, I was one of those guys that get him out of here, guys, right? So I was one of those guys that knocked him. But I think when people talk about, I think the atmosphere in the building itself was supportive of him, especially through last year's playoff run when they were kind of rooting for him like you'd root for a third grader shooting a foul shot, basically. Yeah. So I think that's what people are talking about. But there's no doubt that Ben Simmons has been a polarizing figure since he was first picked, and that's what comes with playing in the Northeast. In Philadelphia, Boston, and New York, sports is a 24/7 thing. There's rarely a season off for any of the big four teams. And, if you're caught in the in the glare, it can be tough sometimes, and not everybody is built to handle it.
Yeah, Doc Rivers said Philly is a tough place to play when asked about a possible reason that Ben Simmons wants to be traded. Now, I think I said this to you Friday. I don't think he's mad at Doc Rivers. I don't think he's mad at Joel Embiid. I think he knows he can't face the music to the fans anymore. And that doesn't mean he thinks that the fans it's their fault. It's just him personally knows I'm going to get lambasted here, and I know it.
I think that's part of it, but I don't think you can underestimate how much. And again, no inside information. I don't have any information, but just knowing a professional athlete, knowing athletes, I think it really bothers him that not so much what Rivers and Embiid said after Game 7. I think getting benched in the fourth quarter of Game 7, I think that sticks in his craw, and I think that is maybe the number one fight. That's why it came out today. And had been reported before, I think, by our friend Tom Moore from Bucks County, that they had asked for a trade a week after the season. I think the fact that he was benched during Game 7 in the fourth quarter, that is, to me, that, and not a lot of people talk about that, but to me, they don't know why he wants out. That's why he wants out.
And I'll give you credit because I haven't heard a lot of people bring that whole notion up that, hey, the guy got benched. And Doc Rivers today, he went back on it. He said, I think he had a back and forth with Howard Eskin where he said, hold on, I'm in charge here.
Right.
Is what he said. And he said, you keep bringing this narrative up that I said this. That's not my message. My message was I wasn't ready to answer the question at that time. And he said, nobody backed this kid more than I did. But you're saying, which is accurate, you're saying things that you backed him, but you then benched him in a big moment. And that embarrassment may resonate with him.
Yeah, and I think, I think you take a look at any player, college. I cover a lot of high schools. A high school player, a prominent starter on a high school team gets benched in the fourth quarter of a game or gets, what happens, 3 weeks later or a month later or next season, that player transfers to another school. You see it in youth teams. Oh, I'm not playing on this team. I'm going to go play for this team down the road. I think that is a major factor. And as far as Doc and trying to clarify what he said after Game 7, I think Doc, should just let that narrative peacefully go away. He hasn't done himself any favors with any of his national media appearances, and I don't think he did himself any favors today either.
Mike McGarry, let's go to Monday night. Eagles and Cowboys. Obviously, the Giants lost yesterday. They're 0-3. They got all sorts of problems. Washington lost yesterday as well. So the winner tonight, this is actually a pretty interesting game for the winner.
Yeah, the division's wide open, especially, the winner's going to be 2-1 and in first place. I just think Dallas is going to be tough to beat down there. I think the injuries on the Eagles offensive line are a big factor. And I can see, Dallas is kind of banged up on their defensive line, but I think Dallas, if the game gets into a shootout, Dallas with their offense is going to be able to outscore the Eagles there, basically.
Now, you said the Phillies were done. Are the Giants also done?
0-3, hey, we talked about it after, my rant last Friday. It's unbelievable. This is now 7 games since 2017 that they've lost on field goals in the last 30 seconds, 5 of them on the last play. As I said last Friday, they are inventing ways to lose football games. They are figuring out that if they play a football game, they will figure out a way to lose it. It's depressing. They're 0-3. You look at the numbers, and 0-3 teams in the NFL don't make the postseason very often. So unfortunately, we've got 15 more weeks of football. But if you're a Giants fan like myself, and it's not even, 3 days in the fall here, the season just might be over.
Warms my heart. Hey, Mike, what was the big takeaway from high school football this weekend?
St. Augustine really flashed a lot of talent. They went to Millville and won a game out there by 2 touchdowns, and they can now lay claim to being one of the top teams in South Jersey, if not the top team in South Jersey. And Cedar Creek did a great job on Saturday, beating a high-scoring Woodrow Wilson team 21-8. Cedar Creek's given up 8 points all season. That sets up this week's big game, Cedar Creek at Holy Spirit Friday night. So those are your 2 big takeaways from the high school football weekend.
At AC Press McGarry for more on everything we just discussed. Follow him on Twitter. And, of course, Sixers open camp tomorrow. As Tobias Harris said, I don't think Ben Simmons is walking through that door, nor does anybody else. Mike, we'll talk to you Wednesday, man.
All right, we'll see you later.
Mike McGarry's appearance on the Sports Bash is brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential services for your home and your business. Visit them online at calvielectric.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. Download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play. You can take the show on the go and message us through the free mobile app. When we come back, more conversation on the way. Ben Simmons, Sixers, Eagles, Cowboys, Phillies. It's all up to you. Hour 2 of the Sports Bash. Hope you're enjoying your Monday. It's Eagles game day, my friends. I'd like for you to get involved on the text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. The text board will stay open throughout the day, as always. You can download the free mobile app and message us through your phone. Jump on board at 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. You know, one thing we talk a lot about, the fans versus the players. And the fans, look, have every right to act however they want to act. But just because you have the right to act the way you want to act doesn't mean that everybody likes it. Just because you say, I have the right to, it doesn't mean that you all have that friend that you're friends with, but you're kind of embarrassed sometimes when he does things. So just because you like that guy doesn't mean that when he goes out in public and acts like a jackass that you support that. If you're a fan and you act like a jackass, yes, you're within your right. But that doesn't mean that doesn't factor in to whether or not a player wants to play in a spot where the fan is going to take his freedom and liberty to act like an idiot. Or that doesn't even mean that you're acting like an idiot. That just means that, hey, you care way more than that player wishes you care. And that's well within your right. I don't go to a game and say, I paid for my ticket, therefore I'm going to boo. I don't feel the need to boo. Do I care less than you? Maybe in your opinion. Maybe I, in my opinion, care more than you do. I have never gone to a game and just decided I'm going to cut my hands together and fire a boo at somebody. I don't know what that accomplishes. Is it your right to boo? 1,000%. Boo it up, my friends. Boo it up. For me, I don't find that to be productive, so I don't go down that route. You're not going to see me at a game, boo, jumping up and down. And so when a player says, that's not for me, it's not for him. He has the right to say it's not for him, just like you have the right to lay it out there for him. And then once it's out there, you have the decision to make as a player. Do I want to play for this fan base who essentially lets me know I stink at times? That's all. If Ben Simmons or any other player decides this is not for me, well, guess what? That's them. Now, the right conversation isn't whether the fans are in the wrong. It's whether or not the player can handle it. And obviously this player can handle it. Right? Obviously this player cannot handle it. And as Joel Embiid said today, it's not for everybody. Everybody handles it differently. Everybody acts differently. Just like every fan acts differently. The fan next to me might boo. I choose not to. Right? The fan next to me chooses to boo and scream and yell. And I'm the other fan. I don't choose that route to show my frustration. There was a lot of interesting quotes today that we could really ponder on whether or not they're fair or unfair. Joel Embiid, of course, when he was asked about Ben Simmons, does he want him back? And Joel, without hesitation, of course we want him back. He's a big piece of what we've been building the past 5 years, or few years, excuse me. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that happened in between, and I know a little bit about all of that. But that's not really for me to deal with. He says, the way I look at it is that we all got to be better. After we lost, I kind of try to figure out ways I can be better so we can win something. I think you just got to have some self-awareness. I could have done much better than I did. I turned the ball over a few times. I missed a few shots. Tobias could have been better. All my teammates could have been better. If that's what it takes to win, I still believe that we got a chance to win with Ben. I know he's going through a lot. I guess we're just going to have to let him be himself. Now, should Tobias Harris complain now that Joel Embiid today said Tobias could have been better? Should Tobias Harris now ask to be traded? Nowhere in there did Joel Embiid say, hey, the fans stink. He was asked about Tobias Harris, I should say, was asked about the whole situation because Joel Embiid said he was asked if you could say one thing to Ben, like what would you say? Like if you could, he would say, I'm disappointed. And he didn't say I'm disappointed in Ben Simmons. He had to clarify it because everybody was going to make it out that I'm disappointed in you, Ben Simmons. No, it was, I'm disappointed in the situation. I'm disappointed that it got to this point. Tobias Harris said, it's disappointing. I signed back here with the expectation of a championship team. Last season was disappointing as well in the second round, but I think he's a huge part of our team, our point guard. I was telling this to somebody the other day. Like, if you look around the NBA, and just like any team, championship team or bottom of the pack team, your starting point guard goes out of the lineup, that team is kind of in a weird spot. I think that the point guard position is one of the most important positions in the NBA. And so him not going to be here, it's disappointing. Ben's still part of our team. He's got 15 guys in the locker room, 7 or 8 of them that he played with last year. That's still our brother as well. So we hope the situation gets resolved. If it doesn't, we move on. We get this thing going. Because at the end of the day, the 29 other teams that play against us do not care. They're coming to kick our butt, and we need to be ready. So that's the reality. 609-403-0973. Danny Green. We've reached out to Ben. All of us have talked to him. Bits and pieces here and there. I haven't spoken to him recently, but we're taking it one day at a time, day by day, and figure out what we need to do. Just as if we had someone out or injured or hurt or missing for personal reasons. Now the slow part is team, but whoever shows up that day for shoot around or shows the day for the game is who we're going to play with. The underlining factor here, the message is that everybody got asked about it today. Every single player got stuck answering the questions for Ben Simmons today. And that's the part that really stinks for his teammates. That's the part that really stinks for his teammates. And guess what? Ben Simmons should be embarrassed by all this, right? He should be embarrassed by all this. And it sucks that his teammates have to go out there and basically get asked these questions. 609-403-0973. Mike, who cares if Ben is bothered by the fans? He's getting paid $180 million. He's a loser. If this player was on the Celtics or Lakers, you would be killing them and calling them soft, but you can't say that about Ben. Said it over and over. You just don't listen. This is weak, soft by Ben Simmons. I've said it over and over. You choose to not listen. That's your fault. In this situation, the way Ben has handled this, I have said over and over and over and over again that he has handled this extremely poorly. It just doesn't fit your narrative that I actually agree that he's handled this poorly. Him handling this is separate of what I think of him as an individual player. The way he has handled this is extremely poor. He has handled this extremely poorly. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. He has handled this disgracefully. Ben Simmons has handled this extremely disgracefully. It doesn't blend with my thoughts on Ben Simmons' talent and how he plays the game, right? That is completely different from what I think or how I think Ben Simmons has handled this situation. Period, point blank. I know it doesn't jive with what people want to hear. Oh, you're always protecting Ben. You're always sticking. No, I think Ben Simmons, I appreciate his talent as a player. Do I think he can be better? 1,000%. I think he can be a much better offensive player. That being said, do I think the Sixers can win with Ben Simmons on their team? Yes, I do. Someone who plays defense at the level he plays, this team will be lacking something that has helped them be one of the best teams in the league. As much as we don't want to admit that, because offense is all NBA fans care about. Yes, his lack of offense hurts the team. But what he brings in the other avenues of the game, they will not be able to replace. And then we're going to bitch that they don't play good enough defense. We're going to moan that they don't have a good enough open court game and that they don't get wide open looks at three-pointers anymore. Why is it? Why can't Seth Curry get open looks? Why can't Danny Green be the best shooting three-point man in the league again this year from the corner? Why do you think those guys get those looks? If you actually just stepped back for a second from being an irrational person and just say, yes, I, Mike Gill, understand Ben Simmons needs to be better at free throw shooting. It would be nice if he attempted a jump shot here or there. It's not a necessity. If he just had more inner fire and desire to get to the basket, he could take over games. That being said, if you take him off the floor, look at games when he doesn't play for this team. Watch games when he doesn't play. The team's a disaster. That being said, separating what I think of him as a player, he has handled this extremely poorly. In fact, I tweeted this out a few days ago. As I said, Ben Simmons knows he cannot face these fans again because he knows his game hasn't improved. He wants to go be coddled by a new team. It's not Doc. It's not Embiid or anything else said. It's Ben Simmons looking in the mirror and realizing he can't face these fans. #weak. That's my thought. That's what I've said all along. So, again, text message. You hear what you want to hear, brother. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. More text messages coming in. Mike, fans pay a lot of money for seats. They have every right to let the players know when they stink it up on and off the court. I think I just said that. You have every right to do whatever you want. You can boo, you can shout, you can hiss, you can paint your face, you can wear a jersey, you can wear no shirt, you can paint your chest. You can do whatever your heart desires when you go to that game. Nobody said that you can't. I have not said you cannot act however you want to act at a game within reason. You can't shout obscenities, can't throw stuff on the court, but do anything else you want. You can boo, you can yell, scream, dress how you want. You have every right to let the players know when they stink it up on and off the court. 100%. So then don't be mad when the player says, guess what? He has a right to do that. And I have a right to say, I don't want to be here because that guy has a right to do it. And he chooses to do it more than I care. Right? In this town, he has every right to boo. But in this town, that guy boos more than I really care for. That's all. So you have the right to boo. You have the right. You pay for the ticket. You have the right. But then he has the right to say, I don't like it. Doesn't he? Well, he's getting paid. Guess what? There are people that work at a job. You might be a waiter, and the kitchen is slow. And then what happens? The waiter goes out to the table. The cook doesn't get yelled at by the patron. The waiter does. The waiter gets yelled at. Why is my food taking so long? I wish the waiter or waitress could say, I'm sorry, jerk. I'm not the one cooking the food. Why don't you go back in the kitchen and yell at that guy? Same situation here. You have the right to tell the waiter you're unhappy that your food is coming out slow. That doesn't mean the waiter has to like it. The waiter can say, hey, buddy, I'm not the cook here. Instead, the waiter says, I'll go back and find out what's taking so long. So, yes, you have the right to be a booer, a screamer, a yeller. But then also don't be surprised when that person says, I don't like being booed. I don't like constantly being told that I stink. And I feel he might be wrong about this. I feel that if I go someplace else, I might get told I stink less. They might not care as much as you. And for me, that makes me more comfortable. Don't be surprised when that happens. Why would anybody be surprised at that? Now, Joel Embiid says, doesn't bother me. That's Joel Embiid. Tobias Harris said, it did bother me, and now it no longer bothers me. That's Tobias Harris. Two guys handled it two different ways. Here's a third guy, Ben Simmons. It bothers him more than it bothers Joel Embiid, bothers him more than it bothers Tobias Harris. You have the right to do it. He has the right to say it bothers him. Now, your retort can be, well, he's weak. Fine. It doesn't make, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean that his reasoning is wrong or right. It just, that's his reason. Why don't you want to be here anymore? I don't like the fans here anymore. That's all. Jalen checks in. So you're embarrassed by the fans, Mike? What did they do with Ben that was so embarrassing? I'm not embarrassed by any fans. The fans can act however they want. What have they done with Ben that's so embarrassing? Boy, oh boy, if you saw my Twitter timeline. I don't know that they've done anything embarrassing. I don't know that I said I was embarrassed by it. Did I say I was embarrassed by the fans? I don't recall saying that. I said the fans can act however they want. SLR, you don't have to boo, Mike. You have a whole radio show to vent about whatever you want. Just saying. Even if I didn't have a radio show, SLR, I could tell you I would not be booing at a game. And I'm not saying that because you boo that you're wrong. It's not my personality. Right? It's just not my personality. More text messages coming in, more messages coming in here on the video, watch it on YouTube. Come on, booing is not being a jackass. Watching sports is about being emotionally invested and expressing that. They could definitely go too far, but booing, come on. I'm not saying that it's going too far or not. I just said booing, you're more than welcome to. It's your right to boo as much as you want. Paint your face, wear a jersey, boo, do whatever you want. Just don't be surprised if a player says, I don't like it. That's all. I don't know why we're surprised by that. Now, some players don't care. Right? Tony's checking in. He says, sorry, Mike, I'm a little behind here. Born and raised in South Philly. It's definitely a tough place to play, and if you can't handle it, then we don't want you. Trust me, we raised with thick skin. You know what, Tony? That's everybody's prerogative to say, if you can't handle it, then we don't want you. Guess what? There's a lot of players that can't handle it that you probably would like on your team. Kevin Durant doesn't want to hear it. Kevin Durant is notoriously thin-skinned. Do you want Kevin Durant on your team? Because I'll take him. If Kevin Durant says, I will come play in Philly if you just don't boo me, would you rather the lousy player who says, boo me all you want? Or would you want the guy who says, I'll come there, but I want you to shut your mouth? Because I'll take Kevin Durant, and I'll gladly stay quiet. I don't need to boo. I don't have to boo. I'll take the better players, even if booing bothers them. I'll take Kevin Durant. He don't like booing. He doesn't want to be booed. I'll take Kevin Durant. Thanks. You take the other guy. You take the guy who enjoys being booed. I'll take Kevin Durant. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Is that fair? I mean, look, there are some players that handle it and handle it well. There's we act like there's an absolute. That the players that can't handle it, they all stink. Right? We act like the players that can't handle being booed, they must stink. 609-403-0973. Mike, Ben isn't being ripped. People are pointing out legitimate shortcomings. It's not like fans are making up grievances. Ben is mad that Sixers fans point out the obvious. I don't disagree with you either. I'm not saying that the fans – here's the thing. People tell Ben he stinks because he can't shoot. It's not that he can't shoot. He chooses not to shoot. So Ben is told over and over and over again that you stink, you suck, you stink, you're not any good, get rid of this guy, someone who doesn't shoot, the easiest thing to do, you don't do it, get rid of this guy. That's all he pretty much hears. Sure, he hears people say, hey, you're a really good defense. But he's saying, instead of telling me I can't, hey, can you appreciate me for what I do well? And most people within your right will say, no, I don't want to tell you what you do well. Which has gotten to us to this point. Because the organization has kind of coddled him. And they say, look, he's done this, and this. Tom from the Villas. Mike, a lot of people, much like myself, thought that Simmons was going to be the centerpiece of the team by now. Obviously, we were wrong. And now those of us had that faith in him have to eat crow while he's saying he doesn't want to play here anymore. So a lot of us are pissed at him from that aspect. That's from Tom in the Villas. Here's the thing. Ben Simmons never shot a three-point shot in college. I don't know why people thought he was going to come here and start popping J's all over the place. That's just not who he ever was. So it's not his fault that you didn't do your homework on him. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't watch him play in college. You just assumed he's the number one pick, and everybody's saying this about him. He's supposed to be Magic Johnson. Well, you know what Magic Johnson didn't do very well? Shoot! Magic Johnson didn't shoot very well. Now, the problem is Ben doesn't shoot at all. That's a big difference. And for a lot of these things, you're allowed to be frustrated. I'm not telling you you're wrong. You handle it. 609-403-0973. Hey, coming up, don't forget, Eagles and Cowboys tonight. Geoff Mosher, football at 4. Casey at Joyner. One thought, every game. Jeff Kerr, NFL, NFC East, plus Tyrese Maxey and Kevin Kincaid in about 20 minutes. Mike, isn't the case of fans booing him for bad play possible at any team? Does he realize he can be booed anywhere? I'll answer that question and why it's a fair question, but coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. I have 3:29 on a Monday. Eagles and Cowboys tonight, 97.3 ESPN. 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. You can chime in with whatever you'd like. Eagles, Cowboys, Phillies, Braves. That's a big one if they can get a sweep. I guess they're kind of still alive. And obviously the Ben Simmons stuff, a lot of you are chiming in on. 609 403 0973. Colton from Manchester. Is that England? The fans have every right to boo. Ben hasn't improved. He's actually become worse. All right, so let's take that right there. The fans have every right to boo. 100% agree. He hasn't really improved. He's actually become worse. A lot of truth there. He has not improved his game. Has he become worse? In the playoff series against Atlanta, you can make an argument that, yes, not an argument. You can definitively say he was a worse player in the series against Atlanta than he was at any other point in his career. That is the lowest of points for him. So, Colton from Manchester, so far, fans have every right to boo? Correct. Ben hasn't improved. He's actually become worse. Mostly true. Mostly accurate. So I'll give you a 1.5 there. Because let's be honest. During the regular season, Ben helped this team become the number one seed. Whether we want to acknowledge that, that's a different story. I feel like we don't want to acknowledge that, hey, Ben Simmons was on the team that was the number one seed. Did he have a part in that? Or was he a hindrance to them being the number one seed? Answer that truthfully. Now, different story in the playoffs. I think we're all on the same boat in the playoffs. In round 2 against the Hawks, I think he was a part of why they lost. For 82 games, I think he was a part of why they won. 609 403 0973. He goes on to say, it's simple. Fans have the right to be pissed with Ben. They absolutely have the right. No one's saying they don't have the right. At no point did anyone say they don't have the right to be pissed at Ben Simmons. At no point. Victor from Linwood, there are a lot of fans that think they are an integral part of paying the athlete's salary, which I believe is ludicrous. I don't know that I agree with that, Victor. The fans do pay their salaries. The reason the players get paid what they get paid is because the fans go to games and pay. I was at the Red Sox game on Saturday. That place, I've never been to Fenway Park before. But I said, it's amazing. Like, that's a baseball town, okay? Like, you're just jealous and envious. You go to a game at Fenway Park, you become jealous and envious. That's all that happens. If you never went to a baseball game before and your first game ever was at Fenway Park, you would be jealous or would be a Red Sox fan. There's no other way that you could do it. You could say, I've never been to a baseball game before, and I would say, go to Fenway Park. You would then immediately become a Red Sox fan. But what I learned at that game is a lot of things. Like I said to myself, there's no concourses here. Very small. The amount of money that goes through that place. It was $11.25 for one beer. I said, I paid $100 for a six-pack. There is a beer vendor, a hot dog man, a pretzel guy every 2 feet. Why? Because they don't have any room for concourses. The amount of money that goes through Fenway Park pays those players. 2 tickets to a game at Fenway Park is what, $500? So yeah, the fans do pay the athletes' salaries for the most part. I mean, it has a role in paying their salaries. Look, there was no fans last year. Guess what? The checks didn't bounce. No fans, checks didn't bounce. How long they could get away with that? Probably not too long. They do have other avenues of money, of income. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Let's go to Vinny in Atlantic City. What's up, Vinny?
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
Yo, man.
No, I'm not too sure.
Then you got a bad connection. I can't hear you, man. Go ahead. I couldn't hear you. You had a bad connection.
I'm sorry. I can't tell if you're picking up for Ben or if you're against Ben because You have to be able to dominate on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, just if he's the man, he's got to be able to dominate. I don't mean that he can't shoot, but he's got to put the ball in the bucket. He's got to produce points, and he doesn't. He's totally absent on that side of the ball.
In the playoffs, yes, absolutely agree with you. He needs to be more aggressive and just needs to be a better, he needs to have a better mindset on the offensive end of the floor. I think a lot of that comes from, for whatever reason, he completely lost it at the free throw line. Now, he shot 33% from the free throw line. People act like he is a career 33% free throw shooter. That just happened in the playoffs. That's not been his entire career. But we only remember the last thing that he shot 71% from the free throw line in the playoff series against the Miami Heat.
I get that. But even like you said, going back to his college days, he didn't even shoot outside of the paint.
Yes.
And it seems to me, like you said, he's got a weird mindset as to where he knows what he's good at, and he doesn't have a killer instinct or anything to even try to get better at what he's not good at. And so it seems to me like he's just reaping all the benefits of what he's good at, cashing his checks in, and not caring at all about anything else. Just wanting to be good at what he's good at and go to my $22 million house in L.A.
No, you're right about that. I agree with you. Like, he has kind of
I don't think that he has any he doesn't have any he doesn't want to get better at all. All he wants to do is play basketball and just skate through almost. I don't know if he's got a mindset as to
no, Vinny, you are making and I agree with you, and I appreciate the call, man. You're making a lot of good points. Now you're saying, look, you cannot pull the wool over our eyes anymore. We have figured you out. And guess what? He is saying, you have figured me out. You have just hit the nail on the head, Vin. I agree with you. And I tweeted this out over the weekend. Ben Simmons knows the fans have caught on to him. And he's saying, look, I'm an all-star player. I'm defensive player of the year, runner-up. I'm first-team all-NBA. I'm cool with that. And the fans are saying, we're not cool with that. And he's saying, they have figured me out. They know that I'm cool with what I am, and they're not cool with what I am. So in his mind, you have figured me out. I want to go someplace else that hasn't figured me out yet. But I'm not saying that, what was his name, Vinny? I'm not saying you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. That Ben has looked, I tweeted this out. Ben has realized that he can no longer hoodwink the fans here. And there are fans who are unlike me. There are fans, like he said, well, you got to call, you got to dominate, you got to ball. Ben saying, I don't have to be a scorer. You, the fan, is saying I need to be a scorer. He's saying, I don't want to be a scorer. You want me to be a scorer. That's where the disconnect is. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Download the app in the Apple Store, Google Play. Sports Bash is brought to you this hour by Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union, choosing better banking for great rates on loans, refinancing, and credit cards, free or low-cost financial products, and friendly personal service. Visit jerseyshorefcu.org for more information. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Follow me on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show. I'll read off your tweets. I'll even give your Twitter handle out there. Coming up, Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. Is it the fans' fault? Should we blame the fans? You might be surprised what Kevin has to say. Stick around. All right, 343, Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad covers the Sixers. He's set to join us right now. He was there today, and he can give us a little bit more of insight on how people feel. Like, I think this has really turned into two underlining messages today. Kevin Kincaid, Crossing Broad, a fine WVU alum. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Listen, today was my first day back from paternity leave, and so what a way to get back into the Philly sports scene. We got Ben Simmons a no-show for camp and Eagles Cowboys tonight. So talk about jumping right back into it, you know?
Right, absolutely, right. Hey, welcome back, Kevin Kincaid. Here we go. So obviously there was two messages today. Everybody wants Ben Simmons back. Do we believe them? One.
Yeah, I do.
All right. So we do agree that the players actually would like him to come back here. I would agree with you on that.
I believe that.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
All right. Two, it seemed that the messaging was that Philadelphia is a tough place to play and that Ben maybe doesn't handle this very well. Did you get that as a pretty big message today?
Yeah, that was the vibe I got. I think everybody, I asked specifically a couple of the guys. I asked Danny Green and Joel Embiid to elaborate on the comments that they made this summer about the fans and needing to be better and kind of back off when necessary. And they all kind of said something to the effect of, like, the fans are passionate, they have a right to say what they want to say and respond the way that they respond. They're hardworking. They buy our jerseys. They go to our games. They're loud. They're intense, and we want that. And, maybe that some people just aren't built for that. Maybe some people don't warm up to Philadelphia, don't click with Philadelphia. And seems like that's what they were saying about Ben. And if you want to interpret that another way, you could say, well, he's just too soft to play here. Right? Like, is that not the same interpretation? If you're saying that some people are built for this,
yeah,
and other people are not built for it.
So are you reading this?
Then what do you say? Yeah.
Are you reading this, Kevin, as like, so this whole back and forth, like, Tobias Harris said 100%. I feel that the fans, but it's not him saying, in fact, I don't think Tobias Harris is saying our fans suck. He's just saying, hey, you have every right to boo. He just doesn't like it. I mean, and that's his prerogative, right?
Yeah, it is. And the question then becomes an individual one. Does that make you soft? Because
right, that's a whole nother conversation. Like, you get these fans, I find it to be very, don't you think it's somewhat hypocritical for the fans to be angry at Ben? Oddly, the fans take it personal that they're now being criticized. The weird dynamic here.
Because the fans want, that's the funny thing, Mike. It's like all the fans after the playoff series lost wanted to trade Ben Simmons, and the majority said, okay, let's move on. But then they get offended when people call them out because, they can't take the criticism as a two-way street. When somebody asks them to back off, and they get bothered by that. So I do get a little bit of a sense of there is a bit of hypocrisy going on there.
Yes. Like the fans are saying, we pay our money, we can do whatever we want. Yes, you're allowed to, but then don't be mad when the player says you're allowed to boo. And because you're allowed to boo, I am choosing to say, I don't like the fact that you're booing me because I feel that you are using your right to boo way too much.
If you go to your girlfriend and you say, I'm not sure it's working out. I think it's probably best that we break up. And then she says, yeah, you know what? Well, I'm going to go date somebody else. Would you then get mad at her for saying that? She's doing exactly what you just suggested that you should do.
Right.
So how can anybody be mad at that when ultimately the end result is congruent with what both sides wanted? So the bigger question, I think, from a macro level perspective is, is there a shift in Philadelphia and South Jersey fan culture? I sense that the younger generation of Sixers fans are a little bit more empathetic to the players and a little bit more willing to back off of the booing and show that support, that unconditional support that gets Mike Scott his own fan group, versus I think an older generation of fans are more willing to boo and say this isn't good enough and we expect more and whatnot. And so I think we have a very fascinating kind of generational clash here in how different Sixers fans approach it. And I don't know what's right and what's wrong. I find the whole thing fascinating.
I find it funny. I went to Boston this weekend to Red Sox Yankees, and it's like Red Sox Yankees. I'm thinking I'm going to see like the apocalypse, And my nephew, who's 8 years old, he went to the game on Sunday night. I went to the game on Saturday. My brother-in-law and my nephew went, and my brother-in-law said, Why aren't the Boston fans yelling at my kid? He's wearing a Yankee hat. Like, I want them to yell at my kid. And they weren't. Like, and I was at the game, and I'm like, this Boston Yankee dynamic seemed very friendly to me. Like, it didn't seem like this ultra hatred of these two fan bases that hate each other. Like, it was a weird dynamic. Yet, if a Met jersey shows up in Philly, I mean, that guy's fearful for his life half the time.
Yeah, it's funny. I get a sense that there's a little bit of a shift where I think people are kind of realizing that these guys are human, and so they're trying to walk an admittedly arbitrary line. And I think booing is justified because booing is one of the few ways that fans can communicate to players that look, it's just not good enough.
I have no issue with the fan. However they want to act inside the realm of being a mature human. If you want to boo, you want to wear a jersey, you want to paint your face, you want to whatever, without cursing or running on the field, you can act however you want. Just don't take offense when the player says, I don't care for that.
Well, and that's what Joel Embiid said, because I asked him to clarify it, and he said, look, I think the fans can do whatever they want to do, but Philly does have a reputation of being a tough place to play. And when players get here, it clicks for them and they say, oh, these fans are really passionate. All I got to do is work hard and play hard. You don't even have to play very well, to be honest. Like Aaron Rowan broke his nose running into the fence and people loved him for life. And he was here for a cup of coffee, right?
Yep.
But what Joel basically
It's a great example, by the way. That is a great one.
Yeah. Yeah, and Joel said, I just don't want, if we're pursuing a free agent or, we got a max contract slot open up or something like that, I want people to look at our fan base and say, hey, I'm not so sure about playing there, So he basically said straight up, like, some guys feel like Philly is a harder place to play for. He doesn't think it's true.
Right.
But we can help ourselves. It's kind of what he's saying is help me help you.
Right. Kevin,
you can help me recruit.
I brought up earlier, look, guess who has thin skin and doesn't like getting booed? Kevin Durant. Guess what? I bet you would take Kevin Durant coming here. If Kevin Durant said, hey, I'll sign there, I just don't want you to boo me. Like, because people act like, well, if you can't handle boos, then you're no good. Well, guess what? Kevin Durant's pretty good, and he doesn't want to be booed.
Well, right. And I think then the question is, Mike, like, is there anything wrong with being soft? Like, Kevin Durant, for all intents and purposes, is soft, but he's also a killer on the floor.
Right, exactly.
To your point. It reminds me of like kids in the classroom. They say that children learn in different ways. Some have to be hands on. Some can just look at a book and figure it out. Some can just be told by the teacher and remember it that way. But just because one kid learns another way, does that mean he has a limitation and in some other way that he needs to have a situation or some kind of culture set up to accommodate him? I don't know. I think that's what we're kind of getting hung up on, and I think that was the crux of what the players were saying today.
The ironic part about all this is we've all had that kid or a friend growing up that was very book smart, but not so street smart. Then you have other guys who are really street savvy, and they can't do basic math or read or write, but guess what? They've made a living in this world because they figured out, so there are different ways to go about it. Joel Embiid handles the fans' reaction differently than Tobias Harris, who handles differently from Ben. Ben is saying, guess what? I don't like it. And I said, look, people accuse me of defending Ben and I'm on Ben's payroll. I don't have a problem with Ben Simmons' game. Does he need to shoot more? Would it be great if he's more aggressive? Absolutely. But this team, if they lose his defense and his playmaking, they're going to suffer. They're going to suffer if they don't have.
And you're right. And here's the thing, Mike. It's like, if fans treated Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz and other people a certain way from day one, they would have more of a complaint to file. But you were there with me in the arena when fans were cheering for these guys and giving them a standing ovation and trying to help them through free throws and going bonkers when they hit a three-pointer. So the default behavior, don't let anybody tell you otherwise, the default behavior was unconditional support for these guys. And they only abandoned them when they felt like they weren't doing what they needed to do, or they weren't getting better, or they weren't improving. So I don't. Philly can be tough to play in for sure, but you don't have to do a damn thing to earn the respect of these fans and have their adoration off the bat. We've got people who worship at the altar of Tyrese Maxey who hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah,
So don't tell me it's hard to come here when the default is this crazy support that you wouldn't get in a town like Memphis where people just don't care.
Right, exactly. And as I said, I tweeted this out, Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. Ben knows he can't face the fans because he knows his game has not improved. He's not a dummy. He knows he cannot go back in
Right.
front of those fans if he's not going to shoot 80% from the free throw line, if he's not going to start taking jumpers, if he's not going to start jacking threes. He knows that game is not coming out on the floor, so he knows what's about to come, and he doesn't want to face it.
No, exactly. And, for Doc Rivers, when he says, look, celebrate all the good things that he does well, I mean, we've been doing that, man. For 4 years, I've been writing, as crazy as the back and forth is about Ben Simmons. I've been trying to point out all the great things he does defensively, the floor running, the passing ability, the kick and shoot, chance creation and whatnot. It's like, well, we are doing that. People are doing that. But
I can't wait. I can't wait, Kevin. I can't wait, Kevin, for halfway through the year where you're wondering, well, why isn't Danny Green getting wide open looks in the corner anymore? And why isn't Seth Curry getting wide open 3-pointers on the wing anymore? And why is this guard cutting through our defense for 40? Guess what? When you lose this guy, those shots, those looks, they're not going to be there anymore. Yeah, the guy who replaces him, he might score 22 points, but he's given up 25 on the other end. It's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I would just say this, Ben is such a funky player in that he comes into the NBA and his floor is incredibly high. His floor is Rookie of the Year and perennial All-Star. But I've never covered a player in the NBA or in my MLS days or anything like that where I've seen a player whose floor and ceiling are so close together that you'd have to crouch to get through the corridor, because it's like he is the same player that he was a couple of years ago, and it's not wrong for fans to think that the evolution of his game has to happen. There's nothing wrong with thinking
100% agree with that as well. Kevin Kincaid crossing broad. The Sixers open camp tomorrow. Ben Simmons will not be there. He wasn't there today, but everybody had to answer the questions about it. They got past it. We'll see what's next. All right, Kevin, congratulations on being a dad again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And maybe our Mountaineers won't blow it.
Oh, you knew that was happening. You knew that was happening.
No further comment.
They don't ever improve their game either. I watched that in the hotel room on Saturday night. Oklahoma beats my Mountaineers. It was a good game, good entertaining game. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Good spirited conversation with Kevin Kincaid. You heard it from somebody different, okay? Not me. Somebody different who says, look, not everybody thinks the same. We all don't think and feel the same. That's, I think, the biggest message today is that, yeah, the fans are tough sometimes, and they're tougher on certain people than they are on other people, even if their level of toughness on each individual player is the same. Those players handle it differently. That's all. All right, when we come back, there's a football game tonight. We're going to break it down from every angle with Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast. Football at 4 is next. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at the Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast getting us ready for tonight's tilt between the Eagles and, of course, the Dallas Cowboys. It's a big one in the NFC East. I got a couple of little stat lines on this game. It's the 27th time the two teams will meet in prime time since the merger, tied with the Raiders and Chargers for most in that span. It's the first meeting on Monday Night Football. Believe it or not, these two teams have not played on Monday Night Football since 2008. That was the game Deshaun Jackson dropped the ball before the goal line on that bomb from Donovan McNabb. It's the Cowboys' 83rd game on Monday night, second most all time. The Cowboys have lost 7 straight primetime games. It's the second longest active streak. And that's where we bring in Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, who joins us right now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Moshe, Monday Night Football. I did not realize these two teams have not played on Monday night since 2008.
Yeah, that is amazing. It feels like they've played on prime time, I guess Sunday night, a billion times since then. But I remember that game that you referenced. I was there. Deshaun Jackson, famous for sort of thinking he caught a touchdown, then, spiking the ball a little bit too early there and keeping the Eagles from scoring a touchdown at that moment.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the particulars of tonight's game. And number one, we know that Jordan Mailata is not going to play in the game, and obviously that means Andre Dillard will get the start. What is your expectations? What do the team expect from Dillard? And there's a lot of underlining stories. There's a lot of peels to the onion on this one.
Yeah, there is. It's kind of funny. It's hard not to think. When we hear about a primetime game against a division opponent where the left tackle is not going to be starting, it's hard not to remember that Eagles-Giants game in 2006 when Trey Thomas had to miss it and Winston Justice filled in. But it's not – I mean, you can say that's just one time, but it's not hard to see the parallels between Winston Justice, who was kind of considered timid at the time, maybe not a little bit ready, didn't have that toughness that a John Runyon or a Trey Thomas were known to have. And obviously that's been the issue for Andre Dillard ever since he's gotten here, is just not – having that mean streak and being able to really hold off those big, powerful rushers at that left tackle position. He's got wonderful feet, has nice pass pro against kind of your speed rushers, but the guys who are big and just want to get right into his chest, he struggles with. And then, of course, the injuries that he's had has really, limited his playing time. So this will be a big test for him.
Yeah, and then, Moshe, of course, the other underlining thing here is the positive that can come from this. What if he plays well? The Eagles already have a, treasure chest full of draft picks. But if he plays well, I mean, I guess the phone could start ringing and people wondering, hey, is Andre Dillard available?
It's possible. You might hear that. I mean, we can talk about that after the game and see what happens. I would say, though, that with Jordan Mailata, first of all, there's no guarantee he's going to be back next week for Sunday's game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And you are talking about a left tackle who hasn't played this position very long and has had 2 back injuries earlier in his career. So having a good, adequate backup left tackle may be a nice thing to have. And you may not just want to go run out to the market and dangle him out there for whatever pick, unless you get an offer that you just can't refuse.
Moshe, obviously the Eagles are going to go with 2 backup offensive linemen here. So let's analyze that. Micah Parsons' role tonight and the Eagles being down 2 starting offensive linemen. How do we look at how that matchup will impact tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the big question mark that the Eagles have. They have 2 questions as far as injuries going into this game. How can they hold up on the offensive line? And sort of in the same vein, how will the defensive line be impacted by no Brandon Graham, which is, it's hard to believe it, but it's been a long, long time since Brandon Graham didn't start a game because he was injured. So those are the 2. That's where the spotlight is. If the Eagles control the trenches, like most teams, they'll do a good job. But obviously that's the obstacle that's presented. I will say for the Eagles offensive line, they catch a little bit of a break in that Dallas's defensive line is really banged up. I mean, of course, there's no DeMarcus Lawrence. There's also no Bradley Anae. They're missing a couple of other defensive linemen that they would normally have. They're not deep on the defensive line. So if Landon Dickerson, who's going to start right guard for Brandon Brooks, had a good week of practice and now he gets to start and not get thrown in the middle of a game, if he's, 45 to 55% better than what you saw against San Francisco, that's a really big feather in the cap for the Eagles.
No doubt about it. And obviously, the Dallas defense last year, Moats, was a disaster. They played much better last week against a pretty good Chargers team. I mean, they gave up 17 points to a Charger team that just went to Kansas City and pulled off a road win here. So what has improved about the Dallas defense?
I don't know if it's too early to say what's improved or whether that was kind of just an anomaly type game last week. But I will say they are playing a lot more man defense, which is, I think, surprising for a lot of people because Dan Quinn, going back to his days in Atlanta, was playing a lot more zone, even more some cover three. Obviously, the cover three was the Legion of Boom, who was out there in Seattle. So he's playing more man defense. And I would say Trayvon Diggs, their cornerback from Alabama, has had a much better start to his year now than his rookie year last year when there were just deep plays against them all over the field. He actually had a pretty good November and December last year, but kind of got lost in the sauce of Dallas just not being a very good team and having a lot of injuries. But he's starting off good, and he's been the corner that they would hope that he would be, and so he'll be a matchup for the Eagles rookie Devontae Smith, his former teammate. A lot of Alabama on the field tonight, by the way.
Yeah, well, last week we talked a lot about, all the deep shots they took down the field. Let me ask you, is this a team that is vulnerable to the deep shot?
That's a good question. I mean, if they're going to play man defense, then, yeah, there should be opportunities to get your ball down the field and take advantage of some one-on-ones that you're going to see in the secondary. So, but we talk about the Eagles receivers. I mean, they're still, to me, a work in progress. Devontae Smith was targeted, 7 times last week, and he only caught 2 balls. And I feel like this coaching staff is still trying to figure out how to use Jalen Reagor the right way. Maybe they watched what Deebo Samuel did for the Niners last night and maybe got some ideas because I feel like they're similar kind of skill set players where you move them around and you just figure out different ways to put the ball in the hands. And the same thing with Watkins. He's not exactly a full route tree polished slide out. He's a deep threat. So I think that, to me, you're still in week 3. You're getting your identity. The ball's got to go to your playmakers. That's what they didn't do last year. It's got to go to Dallas Goedert tonight. It's got to get in the hands of Miles Sanders in a variety of ways as a runner and a receiver, and it's got to get to Devontae Smith too.
Yeah, and then last week we talked, let's first off, Zach Ertz will play tonight, correct?
Yeah, he should. I don't see why he wouldn't. He's off the
right. He's off the
COVID list.
Yeah. So, and then we talked a little bit about it during the last week, Moshe. But how can the Eagles? And I think Shane Steichen admitted, we got to figure out a way to get those guys more involved. But is that a key for tonight's game? Is getting those guys more involved? Yeah,
the key to me, is it's just figuring out how to make sure that you're not using Zach Ertz as only a receiver and that Dallas Goedert is only a blocker. Because Goddard's a good tight end, and he should be the number 1 tight end on this team right now. And he's not getting that kind of opportunities. And it's not just about ego. It's about what he can do for this offense. So he can beat one-on-one matchups. He's tailor-made for that. He has that yard after the catch or run after the catch ability. And to only have 2 or 3 targets would be negligence and malpractice on the Eagles' part. They've got to get him involved in the game. He historically plays well against the Cowboys, but more than that, he's probably – you could say he's your most dependable receiver, pass catcher right now because he's most experienced. But I don't know that he's more talented than, say, Devontae Smith overall. But right now, he is the guy who you want to rely on the most.
There's no question. I'm very intrigued to see because what did Sirianni say? That he really drug himself through the mud, right, Moshe? In kind of self-scouting himself. So what did he learn from game 1 and then the mistakes in game 2 and how he kind of morphs them together? You wonder if morphing the mistakes and the things that he did well is a good enough game plan to beat this Dallas team. Do you look at Dallas and say, no way, man, this is head and shoulders a more talented team than Philadelphia?
I think that in certain regards they are. I mean, as far as offensive firepower right now, they've got a lot more proven, and they can beat you in a variety of different ways. There are guys that you want to put the ball in the hands of on the Cowboys that you're just pretty certain if you do, you're going to get great production. I think you're still wondering about a lot of those guys on the Eagles as they are young and progressing. But I think the most important thing that Nick Sirianni said, along with dragging himself through the mud, was that he's got to remember sometimes it's about players, not necessarily play calls. And I interpret that to mean is, yeah, your scheme is one thing, but at the end of the day, the guys who are going to execute your scheme are your best playmakers. And if Goddard and Sanders and Devontae Smith aren't the ones touching the ball frequently, or Jalen Reagor, depending on how the matchups are, then you're doing a disservice to yourself and your scheme.
But when you said that, I think you brought that up last week, and he said it. I said, well, then he didn't listen to himself, because it seemed like he went with play calling over players. He decided, I want to call this play, and didn't go with the strength of his team in that game last week.
Yeah, he said that, and we can judge him off what he said. And obviously, our eyes told us that there seemed to be some play calls in that game against the Niners that just don't make sense, or just a flow that didn't feel right, and the ball not getting to the guys that you would normally expect. But also, we need to understand is that we don't know what those play calls are. And tonight's another example, another game where we find out if things don't go well, if that's really on the play caller or the person pulling the trigger. There's a data out there that shows from NextGen that shows that 66% of Jalen Hurts' throws beyond the line of scrimmage are to the right side. I mean, that's fairly telltale right there. I mean, defense, they get paid, they get all the data, they get all the analytics. So to me, the question is that because that's the way it's always schemed up, or is that Jalen Hurts' comfort zone? And why is his comfort zone not around the middle or left side? Why is it in just this kind of one area that now limits you as an offensive weapon?
Let's talk defense here, Moshe, because obviously they're going to have their hands full against this offense. If you want to say anything about Dallas, their defense unknown, their offense is pretty good, and obviously, who to you is the main problem for them?
For the Eagles, that's a good question. On defense or just on the whole team?
If you are Jonathan Gannon and you are saying this is the guy that concerns me the most, who's that guy?
I think it's CeeDee Lamb. Cooper will get Darius Slay. That'll be a good matchup. And certainly Amari Cooper is good enough to take a game over. He's also the kind of player who disappears in games, big games at times, as he's done that before against the Eagles. CeeDee Lamb had 2 touchdowns, 2 receiving, 1 rushing touchdown last year against the Eagles. He's off to a really nice start. He sees a lot of targets. And plus, they use him a lot on the interior. So you're talking about matching up against the Maddoxes, or just in a zone where he and Dak are in a good rhythm. He can catch a ball in the zone, turn around, break a tackle or so, and move the chain. So I would be worried about him. And Mike, I know everybody is down on the guy, but when he plays the Eagles, he's still a force. Last year, 19 rushes, 105 yards and a touchdown. I personally think the reports of Ezekiel Elliott's demise are a little bit exaggerated. I know he's not what he was 4 years ago when he was averaging 108 per game, but against this Eagles defense, I'd be concerned about Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, yes, and I'm a little interested how they mix Pollard into this as well.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point too. They really do a good job of using him as someone who can outflank you to the edges. He's got good burst, good speed, catches the ball well. These Memphis running backs, man, Gibson, Pollard, Gainwell, right? I mean, they all seem to come into the NFL with the ability to hurt you on the edges and as a pass catcher. And the way that Kellen Moore mixes them up in the offense, I think is a good compliment. They play good complementary rushing football and catch the ball too.
The Eagles and Cowboys. By the way, the Eagles have lost 3 straight versus NFC East teams. It's their longest division losing streak, going all the way back to 2016 when they lost 4 straight here. Now, Dallas is a 4-point favorite. They are 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games when favored, but they're 9-2 in their last 11 games when favored against Philadelphia. Going with what happened in the division yesterday, New York lost 0-3. Washington lost. Does this make this game a bigger NFC? I already think it's a pretty big game for Philadelphia considering their schedule coming up. So how important is it that they need to get this one?
Yeah, I think more important for the Eagles than the Cowboys. I mean, just exactly for what you said. You lose, you come home 1-2. You know what it's like when you lose to Dallas. You know what it's like here when you lose 2 in a row. There's going to be a lot of questions about this and that and the quarterback, the defense, the head coach, all that. And then, as you mentioned, I don't care that Kansas City is 1-2. They're a talented team.
Right.
They come in here, and it doesn't really get a ton easier when you see that the Panthers are undefeated. You see that Las Vegas is undefeated. I think that they probably won't be favored until they play Detroit in week 7 is that? I think after the Raiders game and
Halloween night.
Detroit at least plays hard. Yeah, Detroit plays hard. They lose, but they play hard.
All right, Moshe. Obviously, Monday night, you guys are getting ready to do your pregame show at 5 o'clock as well. You'll have plenty more on this in the Inside the Birds pregame show, so you can check those guys out as well, getting you ready for this game. How do you see this one kind of working out tonight? It's funny because the game's in Dallas. We really, they don't seem to have this great home field advantage there. So I don't know that playing at Dallas is a huge factor here, but it is on the road for Philadelphia. How do you see it breaking down?
Yeah, I picked the Eagles to win this game.
Wow.
After picking them to lose the first 2, I did pick them to win. Now, that's before the whole Andre Dillard news. It's really tough. If Andre Dillard if this thing doesn't become Winston Justice all over again, then I think the Eagles have a good chance to win this game. I really do. But if that really does them in and the offense in, then I think it could also be a long night. I think it's 2 teams that are always kind of seemingly playing close games. I know it's at Dallas. I just have a feeling, really, that the Eagles are going to win tonight, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me at all if Dallas did.
All right, Geoff Mosher, getting ready for the Inside the Birds pregame show. And, of course, tomorrow we'll break it down here on Football for Andrew DeCecco. Jeff will be back on Wednesday. And, obviously, the Eagles, after tonight, get ready for the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, Moshe, enjoy it, man.
All right, thanks, Mike. Talk to you soon.
All right, he'll be back on Wednesday's show here on the Sports Bash Live. Football at 4, as always, is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by the Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. Most likes the Eagles tonight. I have a couple other things about this game. I want to look at Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. The matchup between these two. Is it more similar than it seems? It's the first career matchup between Hurts and Prescott. Both these guys have been putting up some huge numbers. I'll break them down coming up in about 20 minutes from now. But first, when we come back, I'll talk to Sixers guard Tyrese Maxey here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Tyrese Maxey joins me on the other side. And don't forget, you can download the free mobile app if you're in your car right now. And you're like, hey, I want to listen to that Maxey interview. You can download the free mobile app. You can get it in the Apple Store or Google Play. And, of course, all free. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Right now, over at 97.3ESPN.com, Frank Close breaks down the Phillies and Braves playoff scenarios. What has to happen for the Phillies to make the playoffs? Check it out now at 97.3ESPN.com. Open training camp this week. And, of course, Tyrese, I guess we'll start with how different this offseason was from getting ready for the NBA as a rookie last year. I would imagine this was a lot better experience than last year.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, last year is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, of course. You're anxious. You're ready to see what team you'll be or what city you'll be living in, who your teammates will be. So, I mean, that was great as well. But, this summer, it's working, trying to get 1% better every single day.
So last year, you're a rookie and your playing time is up and down and up and down. You had moments and moments where you didn't play that much. So how would you assess that rookie season, obviously, which was odd playing in front of no fans for a while, getting playing time, not having playing time? How did you kind of assess your rookie experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool, man. It's a dream come true to be able to wake up and play basketball every single day and do what you love. As far as playing time, you just, stay ready. My role on last year's team was to stay ready and be available to do whatever the coach staff needed me to do whenever they needed me to do it.
Well, last year you were available whenever the coaching staff needed. Today, your head coach, Doc Rivers, said that you will have a big role this season. Have you got a chance to sit down and discuss with Doc what that big role might entail?
Not totally, but like I said, I mean, during the summer, I just try to get 1% better every single day and prepare for whatever they asked me to do this year.
Now, what were some of the things that you wanted to work on? Like if you were self-evaluating and self-scouting and said, all right, this is what I need to get better at. What were some of the things this summer that you really focused in on?
I think, one thing I really focused on was decision-making, being able to know, film study-wise, knowing where guys like to be, where they like the ball, how to find my spots, how to help run an offense, an NBA offense. Also, just shooting off the dribble, catch and shoot, different varieties. Like I said, be able to get to my spot and, different things like that.
Tyrese Maxey of the Sixers is with us. And obviously when coach says, hey, we're looking for you to have a big role, they kept mentioning our younger players. They think you guys are going to take a big jump. This is a very young team, but are there certain guys on this team that you found yourself kind of talking to more and leaning on to kind of help you through your rookie season?
Yeah, I mean, this is a close-knit group. I mean, I really do appreciate guys like Tobias, Danny Green, Sept Curry. I mean, they've all been extremely helpful. Sept Curry and Tobias, in the locker room, they're our locker mates. So they've been very helpful throughout, my rookie year. Just think about all the different personalities and different pathways we've had on our team. As far as Sept Curry going to the G League, coming out and now being a, leading three-point scorer, leading three-point shooter. Danny Green out the league. Now he's, three-time champion. Tobias say he didn't play much his rookie year, and now he's a max guy. I mean, but those guys really help. And, getting advice from them is the best.
Yeah, I know a lot of your teammates are talking today. Shake Milton said, hey, he worked on his defense. He worked on his threes. Tobias Harris saying he's working on, putting the ball on the floor, pull-up threes. If a lot of people looked at you last year, that little floater, and you talked about the threes, but your coach called you out for defense at one point. How and is that something that you have kind of worked on this summer? How do you work on getting better defensively?
Yeah, I think my thing was, no training camp last year, so it was kind of hard to had to adjust on the fly to defensive strategies and defensive principles. And it's gotten easier to me with time. And, this summer, one thing I did a lot was watch a lot of film, offensively and defensively. And I think that's going to help me grow.
By the way, media day today, and obviously the Sixers open training camp tomorrow. Tyrese, obviously it's not crazy to think that Ben Simmons will not be there tomorrow. Have you got a chance at all to talk to Ben throughout the summer? Were you guys working together at all this summer?
I mean, yeah, like, saying as this moment, Ben's still a part of our team. He's going through stuff right now. And, me and Ben are great friends off the court. It's bigger than basketball with us. We have the same agent. And, he was one of the first people in the NBA to kind of take me under his wing, even before I had got drafted. And before I had was on the Sixers, he was, just helping me, teaching me different things and, just being a good role model and a good friend. I really appreciate him for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, you have the same agent, so it seems like you guys get a chance to kind of work out. It puts everybody in such an awkward spot here. But as Joel said today, this is a business, right? Are you learning that or early in your career that the business brings you up and down and kind of sometimes gets away of what used to be fun in this game of basketball?
Oh, yeah, it is a business. And, this game is fun. We're blessed to be able to do what we love to do every single day. But at the end of the day, it is a business. You have to come in, you have to be a professional. And just like right now, we have to come in and work extremely hard and focus on what's in the locker room as of today.
Hey, you played with no fans. The difference of playing an NBA game in front of nobody and then playing in a full house in Philly was what?
It was great. It was great. I mean, playing in Philly was amazing. It was electric.
Always is, right? I mean, the fans being back last year, you'll have a full house, and obviously you guys start it all tomorrow. The Sixers start training camp. Look for Tyrese Maxey to have a much bigger role, says Doc Rivers, and we appreciate him being a part of the show. Obviously, Tyrese, we wish you luck. Stay healthy, man.
All right. Thank you for everything. You have a nice day.
All right. Tyrese Maxey here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We appreciate him jumping on board. And as we told you, the Sixers open up camp tomorrow. You remember Tyrese said him and Ben share the same agent. He was working out with Ben. And he said, look, he taught me a lot. He took me under his wing, and he did teach him a lot. And it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Tobias Harris says, I've reached out to Ben. I've spoke to him. We've talked. Today, Joel Embiid said, I'm disappointed, not in Ben, just disappointed in that it's gotten to this point, so everybody has kind of been put into this awkward situation. And as Tobias Harris said, look, as a group, as a team, we start training camp tomorrow. I don't think he's coming through that door, so we have to keep pushing on. If he doesn't show up through that door, which he's not, the guy we just talked to, Tyrese Maxey, his role becomes much bigger and much more important. Good to have him here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you approved today. Check him out, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Hey, when we come back, we got plenty more to go, including KC Joyner's One Thought every game. Jeff Kerr talks a little NFL in the 5 o'clock hour as we look back at some of the moments from week number 3 in the NFL. And, of course, get you ready for tonight's Eagles-Cowboys game, which you can only hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. Merrill and Mike have the call. The pregame coverage starts at 7. This is the Sports Bash. I'm Mike Gill. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show and download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play.
Welcome to Parent Teacher Night. Oh, yes, Miss Garner.
If you have one of those airline credit cards, you're probably not earning double miles on every purchase.
You're right. My card only gets extra miles on some types of purchases.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you earn unlimited double miles everywhere.
Wait, but where can we use them?
You can use Capital One Venture Miles on any travel purchase.
Venture gets an A+.
Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 5510 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 5510. Enjoy!
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, brought to you by Deborah Heart and Lung Center. When it's your heart, you don't take chances. Be sure to mandeborah.org. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. I'm going to read off a lot of the texts and comments and questions that have been coming in throughout today's show, which has been a lot today. We appreciate everybody who has been a part of the show today. We will certainly read off as many as we can. We do like to try to get everybody accounted for. I can't promise that I'll get to everybody, especially on days like today where there's a lot more out there than normal because of the variety of things. I mean, even the Phillies are somewhat involved, although I don't see a lot of people still commenting on the Phillies. Tim from Millville. Hey, Mike, do you think the commissioner will get involved if this keeps dragging along with Ben Simmons? You know, since he got involved before with the tanking, seems like something he could potentially help with. It's a good question regarding, will the commissioner get involved? This is kind of unprecedented. There's a lot of people that are wondering if, in fact, he will get involved with this situation because you can't have a player with 4 years left on his deal saying he's not going to play. So the commissioner might have to get involved here. The commissioner just might have to get involved to say, look, a year on your deal, you don't want to play? Fine. 4 years left, you got to get back there and play. This is kind of unprecedented. Unprecedented, I guess is the word we're looking for. Mike, do you realize the Eagles play the Cowboys tonight? I do realize that. I'm just reading off the text that I get from the people. You guys want to talk Eagles, Cowboys? Phone lines are open. Text board is open. Message me through the app. You have a variety of ways that you can connect with me. I'm just reading what I get there, pal. All right? Mike in Ocean City. Hey, Mike. He asks, when did the fans become so underappreciated? Did the athletes learn nothing from last year? Fans are the lifeblood of a team. They pay for the stadiums. They buy the merchandise. And in essence, pay for the contracts. If a player can't handle it, good riddance. The players should say thank you, not pout when they're put in their place. Professional is more than talent. It's the way you carry yourself and behave. My opinion. It's from Mike in Ocean City. Everything you said, it has credence, and it's correct. But let's say this. It doesn't mean, I'm befuddled by this. Like, the fans can act however they want. Your money helps pay for all these things. The fans are the lifeblood of the team. But that doesn't give you carte blanche to say we can act however we want and that the player's supposed to just be okay with that. Right? I mean, that's like saying we pay you to play here, and if we want to, we can run on the field and punch you in the face. You're still paying for the stadium. You're still paying. You can say, hey, I bought this T-shirt here. That doesn't mean you can go punch a guy in the face. Yes, you can boo. But that doesn't mean that the player has to like that. So no one's saying that you're wrong, Mike, in Ocean City. It's just everybody handles it differently. The conversation shouldn't be whether you have the right to. It's whether or not that player is equipped to handle it. And it's fair. I think 100% of us across the board would say Ben Simmons currently is not equipped to handle it. All right, Jalen, no one's punching a player in the face. Fine. You want me to simplify it for you? I'm taking it to an extreme. No one is saying because you bought a T-shirt, Jalen, right? You bought a T-shirt. You bought a hot dog. You bought a hat. You bought a hooded sweatshirt. You bought a ticket. No one is saying because you did that you're in the wrong. You're not a bad person, right? But just because you bought merchandise or bought a ticket, the player is well within their rights to say, I don't like the way you're acting towards me. Just because that player is getting paid by that team. Should the player be verbally assaulted by a coach and say, the team's paying me, I have to continue to be verbally assaulted? Of course not. If the player feels he's in a toxic situation, now, I'm not saying that Ben Simmons is accurate, but that's him. Right? That's him. That's the way that he feels. Right or wrong, indifferent. Joel Embiid doesn't feel the same way. Danny Green doesn't feel the same way. Tobias Harris doesn't feel the same way. Although he said at one time he did feel that way. He did feel that, hey, man, these fans are really rough on me. I don't know that I can handle this. Not even do I know if I can. It's do I want to. Right? But the funny part is, I go back to the fans are like insulted that the player is saying, I don't like this. And then the fans are like, well, I am entitled to do this. Are you not strong enough of a fan for him not to like the fact that you're booing him? I mean, do you not see the irony here? Kyle checks in. I knew this day would come. Ben just needs to grow and we will miss him. He's not Carson. I think you mean just needs to go, right? I'm imagining so. Yeah, no one's saying that he's punching someone in the face. I'm just saying because the fans feel like because they pay for tickets that they're just entitled to do whatever they want to do. And you are entitled to do whatever you want to do within reason. But then don't be surprised when a player says, I don't like that. Now, you could say, man, how could he not? That's the funny part. Can you just look at it from this way? A fan saying, wow, how could this guy not like me booing at him? Not everybody likes getting booed. Newsflash. Getting booed is not all that fun. Right? Getting booed, whether you think it is or not, it's not fun. Okay? And some people care about getting booed, and some people care about what other people think about them. That's life. Right? That's just the way everybody's different. Some people, it bothers them that people think of them in a certain way. So, Mike in Ocean City, when did fans become so underappreciated? I don't think the fans are so underappreciated. 15 guys on the Sixers. I think 14 of them so far seem to like the fans. I think one feels like the fans have been tough on him. No one's saying that they're wrong to be tough on him. He just doesn't like it. You know what I mean? He just doesn't like it. Which he's well within his right. More messages are coming in. I'll read as many as I can between now and the top of the hour. So if you want to get your comment, 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Message me through the free mobile app. Mike, Ben Simmons is taking all this personal. Does he realize if it was a different player that didn't shoot the ball but did all those other things great, we'd still feel the same way? You are probably right. But guess what? He's not those other people. And that other person, let's say we cloned Ben Simmons. We cloned him. But that person had the mentality of Joel Embiid. Same exact player, just a different mentality. Maybe he wouldn't care as much. But you don't have that. You have this guy. And this guy plays the way he does. I would say, I'll be kind. I'll say 60-40. 60% don't like the way Ben plays and 40 are appreciative. Am I being kind? I think I'm being kind. But I'll say 60-40 for the sake of this conversation. 60% want him gone. 60% think he can't play. 60% think he stinks. 60% have not been very kind to the man. 40% have been backing him. Those 60% obviously speak louder than the 40 to Ben. And therefore, he's not happy. You're not wrong to boo him. You're not wrong to tell him that he's not good. You're not wrong to tell him he needs to improve. All those things are well within your right. But it's also within his right to not agree with you. Right? Joey in Ventnor City. Mike, I understand Ben's frustration. However, does Ben not know that his career path has a fan-centric environment? Mental preparation for the job is very much needed to succeed. Here's the thing, Joey. He has had success. It might not be the success that the fans here care about. Individual success. He's had Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year runner-up, first-team All-NBA defender. He's saying, I have succeeded. And you're booing me. Now, we're not dumb. We understand you've had these individual successes, but we know we can get more. And therefore, there's the disconnect. The disconnect is he feels he's been successful. You feel that he could give more than he's given. He's saying, I'm already been successful. You're booing me, and I've given you all of these things. But we're not dumb. We see you can give us more. And he is now getting to the point where he realizes you're not dumb. You know what I'm saying? He has now come to terms with, okay, they are kind of tired of my act. Now, you're saying it's a fan-centric environment. He could go to Memphis. They don't care. They have Ben Simmons on their team. They're not getting Ben Simmons on their team in any other capacity. He could go to Utah, and they could say, this is amazing. We have Ben Simmons. Until that runs its course. He could go to Portland, and Portland would say, we got Ben Simmons on our team. This is unbelievable. Minnesota, we got Ben Simmons on our team. You have to understand, most places think that having Ben Simmons is amazing. Right? Until they don't. How long did it take here for people to get tired of Ben Simmons? About 5 years. Well, if he goes someplace else, does he have 3 years, 4 years, 5 years before they decide they're tired of him? And let me tell you, if he goes to Minnesota or Portland or Cleveland or Orlando or any other town that doesn't care about their basketball team quite as much as we do, he could probably pull the wool over their eyes for longer. Mike, kind of off topic, but if Simmons' strength is defense, can he play small forward? Yes, he's got great vision and passing, but he's obviously a liability on offense. How can he be a point guard? Well, there's a lot there. I mean, in the NBA today, the forward positions, they shoot a lot of threes. If you haven't noticed, it's not something that Ben thrives at. That being said, Ben's problem is in the half court, right? It is in the half-court game where teams late in these games, dare him to kind of take the ball to the basket. The biggest issue of this whole thing is what Doc Rivers has said, and I agree with. Doc Rivers has said the free throw shooting. If he improves the free throw shooting, the rest of the game will be fine. He will be able to take the ball to the basket. He'll be able to get to the line. If he shoots 70% from the line, he doesn't care about getting fouled as much. Mike, isn't the case of fans booing him for bad play possible at any team? Does he realize he can be booed anywhere? He can, but I think that it's pretty strongly considered that he believes the fans here will probably boo him more than other places. Could be wrong. Could be right. Right. Mike, just asking a question. I value your opinion. Were the Sixers trying to move him? Apparently, they were trying to trade him for James Harden. So, yeah. But what did Ben Simmons, what did Joel Embiid say today? This is a business. Everyone's always trying to. He said, this is Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid said, if the Golden State Warriors call and offer Steph Curry and Klay Thompson for me, I would even make that trade. So, yeah, we're all constantly in trade talks. More text messages coming in. I'll try to fit as many as I can in before the top of the hour. I think more than half the fan base is pulling for Ben, this text message says. It's the fact that he's worried about the minority. That's where he is wrong and soft. Sure, I can agree with that. I don't agree with the number. I don't think half the fan base or more than half. I think it's the other way. Hey, I'm just going on my social media. That's all. That's all. I'm just going off of the text and the tweets that I get. Most people that on my timeline don't seem to like him all that much. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, coming up next hour, the matchups to watch. Eagles, Cowboys tonight. One thought every game. Casey Joyner joins us. Jeff Kerr, NFC, was not very good yesterday. He'll break it all down for us the final hour of the show. If you have a comment, question, something you want to get off your chest, 609-403-0973 is the text board. We'll take text messages in the final segment of the show tonight. 609-403-0973. That's the text message. You can get us that way. You can download the free mobile app and message us through the app on your phone, or if you're watching the show live. As always, we appreciate everybody who watches as well. We have a good video audience today. Thanks to everybody who's jumped on board the video stream today. A lot of you in there today. Eagles Cowboys dominates the 5 o'clock hour. He joins us on the other side. Don't go away. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. And the free mobile app. It's free, thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle. Yes, indeed. It's the 5 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. It's Eagles Cowboys, of course. Casey Joyner today, brought to you by Cape Regional Health System. For a healthier life, call 609-463-CAPE. We'll get one thought on every game in a wild week number 3. There were some crazy games in week number 3. Casey Joyner from The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirer will break down the Eagles and the Cowboys, the matchups to watch in the game tonight, which, of course, you can only hear live right here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles Radio Network coverage begins at 7 o'clock. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick call all the action at 8:15 tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. There he is, Casey Joyner. One thought every game. Let's break this Eagles and Cowboys matchups down. Oh, boy, what a week 3. We saw a 66-yard field goal. We saw a 68-yard field goal get returned for a touchdown. And those were just some of the things that we happen to see in week number 3. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, great. It's amazing when you think that kind of thing. Growing up, we all watched the Tom Dempsey kick, 1970 63-yarder. It's like, oh my God, that was a huge thing. That's what that moment felt like yesterday. That was that kind of, you had to be there to see it. Because my son and I are watching, like, did that go through? And that's not even the biggest highlight of the weekend. So awesome football.
We'll get into one thought on every week 3 game, but first, let's look at Eagles and Cowboys tonight. Obviously, this one is, a lot of people think Dallas is a very elite offense. I mean, that they have these playmakers. Our offensive line, has been beat up a little. They do have some missing pieces there. So when you look at the Dallas offense as a whole, where do you kind of rank them? Are they an elite? Are they good? Are they very good? When I say, Casey, tell me about the Cowboy offense. What are they?
It depends on what they want to be, because what they should be and what they've been trying to be for a few years, they tried to be that run-heavy team that protect their defense. But they have the capability with their 3 receivers, even with Gallup out, their receiving core is probably still top 10, maybe top 5 in the league. Prescott is as good as he is. They ought to use Pollard a little more often than Zeke. So they've got the makings there, but the offensive line isn't that great, and they still – as good as their offense is, they're just not in sync with what they need to be as a team, because they need to protect that defense, and yet they keep thinking we need to be this fantastic offense. And every time I look at that, I'm like, Cowboys, you need to get back to what you were back when you were winning a few years ago, because this approach is not going to work based on what you have on defense.
All right, let me ask about the Eagles. Let's start with their defense. Their defensive line loses Brandon Graham up against this offensive line tonight. What kind of production do you anticipate from the front 4? Because Jonathan Gannon hasn't showed a propensity to want to blitz all that much.
No, he hasn't. The thing he has shown is that he'll play different fronts. We've talked in the last couple of weeks about sometimes the Eagles are playing 1 gap, sometimes they're playing 2 gap. I think they'll play a lot of 1 gap tonight because it worked really well last week. They held San Francisco to a 37.5% good blocking rate. It's a really good number against the top quality offensive line. So I think they will do a lot of that. And I still wonder, I keep seeing, you look at the snap numbers for Zeke, and you see what that he's being used a lot in the passing game, like kind of splitting carries between him and Pollard. I want to see if Dallas, they want to get breakaway ability from those 2 backs, and the Eagles have shown a propensity to stop that sort of thing. They've not allowed a lot of big plays on the ground. Their good blocking yards per attempt is tremendously low. So I like what Gann is doing on the defensive side of the ball, both against the run and against the pass, because he's got the makings of a top 10 defense right now.
Yeah, and obviously Dallas has a couple of they have a suspension up front there, so we'll see if the Eagles can kind of get some pressure with just the 4. If they can't, the secondary, you got Steve Nelson, you got Darius Slay, you've got obviously Maddox, the safeties who have played a little bit better than we thought, I guess, with Roddy McLeod not being there. But this is a different set of weapons with CeeDee Lamb and Cooper. No Gallup tonight. So how do you like the matchup of the secondary against the Dallas weapons?
Really like how the secondary is playing, and we talked on Friday's show about the metrics for the Eagles cornerbacks and how Nelson has a 5.7 yards per target allowed, which is a really good number. Slay's at 3.7, Anthony Harris at 2.7, even Maddox at 3.9. I mean, there's nobody in the secondary right now who looks like they're a coverage liability. So I really like that. I think what they're going to want to do, and I think this will have some success, is they're going to tell Dallas, look, go ahead and throw underneath. See if you guys will make a 12-play drive. We think that Dak's going to be too impatient to make that kind of a drive. I think that Dak wants to throw fastballs and wants to be a 400-yard passer as well. So I think Gannon is going to try and set some traps for him and say, fine, we'll give you the dink and dunk stuff. And the minute you try and go vertical, we're going to go for interceptions and things. So I would not be surprised to see that be the game plan for the Eagles.
All right. Obviously, you look at the Eagles on offense here. Their offensive line, they got 2 players down with Jordan Mailata. He is out for the game. It's going to be Andre Dillard, a former first-round pick, and then a second-round pick that a lot of people are high on, Landon Dickerson. He's going to play guard, but a beat-up Dallas offensive line here. So how do you, if you're Philadelphia and you're Nick Sirianni, are you running behind this line tonight against that Dallas beat-up front, or do you think you can beat them down the field?
I'm running against this front because they've got the best offensive line coach in the league, arguably, in Jeff Stoutland. And coaches will tell you whenever they have any kind of injuries and things of that nature. We saw a lot of this last year. Say, fine, if you've got all these problems, just zone it up, because the offensive linemen are coached up in some basics of zone blocking that you can go back to the high school level and the rules that they use in high school blocking. And not obviously using more complex at the NFL, but the basics of them are the same. So you can always zone things up if you have to. And I think that's what they'll do. We'll zone things up. We'll run a bunch of midline. We've got backs to do it. If I'm the Eagles, I'm thinking of getting Boston Scott a little more involved in the offense, because Sanders hasn't done any breakaway stuff. Scott had some tremendous breakaway numbers last year as well. And taking nothing away from Gainwell, I want to see Scott get in there and hit this team with some ground game. I don't know that they'll do that, but that's what I'd want to do is ground and pound these guys and then go vertical, because I still don't trust Jalen Hurts to throw vertical that often. He's only done it 1 game so far this year, and the receiving core is just I trust the offensive line in this running game more than I trust Hurts in the passing game.
All right, that being said, if they are to take shots down the field, is this a secondary that can be beaten? Is there are big plays available against the Dallas secondary?
Anthony Brown has had a terrible year. He came into the season ranked as my grading scale for cornerbacks, red, yellow, and green. He came in as a red rated quarterback because he had such fantastic numbers. But this year, Anthony Brown, 15 targets per Pro Football Focus, 15 targets, 11 completions, 163 yards, 10.9 yards per target, 2 touchdowns allowed. I mean, he's getting torched in coverage. So if I'm the Eagles, I'm looking to go after that matchup, and it would look like Devontae Smith would be going up against that matchup. Obviously, you can move things around, and maybe you get Rager or Watkins against him. But I want to test Brown vertically because he's off to a terrible start, and he's somebody that I would see, hey, is that just an anomaly, or is what we're seeing so far par for the course? Because if it is, you're going to see a big play there.
Well, and that's something I want to bring up is the wide receivers for the Eagles. They're young. I mean, you got guys who have speed and can get down the field, but old dependable, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, they're your dependable guys. So if I'm Nick Sirianni, he said, I drug myself through the mud last week. I was self-scouting. They only have 11 targets. Those 2 tight ends have 11 targets total the whole year. If I'm Nick Sirianni, is this the week I say my tight end needs to be a bigger part of the offense?
They're even missing. I don't know if the inactives are out, but Donovan Wilson, their starting strong safety, he missed last week, and it looked like he was on track to miss this week. And if he's out, you've got Jaron Kearse as the backup. DeMonte Casey, they're a free safety. I've got him as a green-rated free safety, so that's somebody you can also test deep. So, yeah, I mean, if you get a backup strong safety in there, absolutely I'd be trying to send targets their way. And also, if you've got the safeties like that, and if the Cowboys try to bring the safeties down in the coverage, I want to see if I can get Devontae Smith matched up against one of them, or Watkins on a 9 route. But I'd like to get Smith in space there, because I think that's another situation where if you can get Brown thinking about having to stop Devontae Smith on short passes, now you can flip things over, maybe send somebody up top.
All right, so we'll get your pick on this game in just a little bit. But before we get to that, and one thought on every game, where's the matchup in this game that decides who wins and loses this game? Where's there that clear advantage?
That clear advantage, I would have to say that if it's a clear advantage, I'd have to say it's Dallas going up against the Philadelphia secondary. I still think that as good as the secondary's played this year, you've got Cooper, you've got Lamb, they've got some really good tight ends, you've got Wilson. I think if the Cowboys can turn this game into a shootout, the Eagles are not equipped to really keep up in that sort of a contest. So that may be one reason that you could say the Cowboys should want to pass the ball, but I think they're going to test this defense in a way that they haven't been tested so far this year.
All right, we'll get your thought on the game after this, but first, one thought. Every game, Casey Joyner, week 3. Let's go. Washington's defense gives up 43. What's going on with the football team's defense? Buffalo, they're not playing around.
They're not playing around. And Buffalo, I covered this thing for The Athletic in my article last Monday that Buffalo's problems on offense weren't for lack of aggressiveness. They were still throwing vertical passes. They were still doing all the things they did last year. They just weren't being quite as successful. I said it's only a matter of time before they get there. I think Washington is not as talented a defense as people think, and I think that's going to be a trend for them. But also Buffalo, this is going to be who they are for the next few weeks, because they're still that good of an offense.
Josh Allen, 358 yards, 4 touchdowns. A nice day at the office for him. Let's go to Cleveland, where they beat up on the Bears. That was just a pathetic effort by the Bears defense. They've got all sorts of problems in the game. Big game there for Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, and the Bears coaches kept trying to tell us Justin Fields, as good as he looked in the preseason and training camp, they were like, hey, he's not ready. Okay, they were right. He wasn't ready, He's not ready to be behind that offensive line, one of the worst in the league. And Chicago, actually, for the article I wrote today for The Athletic, looking at one fantasy question for every team, Chicago's pass blocking actually was pretty good coming into that game, but that just shows you how good Andy Dalton is. He can do things to help him align look better, because Fields, that was abysmal.
Detroit was right there. 4th and 19. Just get a stop. They don't get the stop, but still a 66-yard field goal's got to beat us. Well, Tucker, it's good. 19-17, Ravens win. Lions fall to 0-3.
Yeah, and the Lions still, they are fighting so hard. I mean, they're talent-wise, they're one of the worst in the league, but you can see them fighting for 4 quarters and what difference it makes. They'll get a win soon enough. And Baltimore, that says something for them, because they were missing 7 starters on defense, had some offensive issues too, but they were still talent-wise well ahead of Detroit, and they played down to their level. They Tomlin a bit in that game, so they got lucky to win that one, because they should have lost.
All right, let's go to Indianapolis. They fall, actually, they were in Tennessee. They fall to 0-3. The Titans win that game 25-16. Derrick Henry goes over 100. Tannehill had 3 touchdowns. But, man, what is the problem with the Colts?
With the problem with the Colts is that their offensive line is banged up, their defense is banged up, and they've got a number of issues that are a problem for them. And the thing is, you look at their schedule going forward, they still have a lot of favorable matchups coming up. They're going to have Houston a couple of times. They're going to have Jacksonville a couple of times. So they're going to get better down the stretch. But that's a pretty brutal schedule that they face so far. At best, they should be 1-2, but you've got as many injuries as they have. It's not a surprise to see them 0-3.
Casey Joyner from The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirer. One thought, every game, week 3, Chiefs lose at home to the Chargers. 30 points they put up on the board. A late interception again by Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, when he came in the league, he started making those crazy passes, crawling across the body, all those things. And people are like, oh, look, it's great. He can do these sorts of things. And any tape analyst is looking at it going, that's going to come back and haunt you eventually. You better get coached out of that, or you better figure out that you can't make those moves. He's been doing it multiple times. He did it against Baltimore. He's getting tackled and he throws that one interception. He makes the bad play here where he throws across the middle. He's just got to stop doing it. If they've got it covered, you got to find another way to do it. You can't take those chances, because if he doesn't take those 2 chances, Kansas City might have won these last 2 games.
All right, another interesting one is another road team goes to Foxborough and beats the Patriots. It was the Saints this time, and they asked Mac Jones to throw the ball 51 times in the game, but the Saints, too much Alvin Kamara.
Too much Alvin Kamara, and the Saints know who they want to be. I think Winston only threw 21 times yesterday. They're going to try and have him throw the ball just 20 times. They've got a good defense. They've got a good running game. And Winston can hit an occasional big play for you. He shouldn't have thrown the pass and he was being tackled. That was insane, but he got a touchdown out of it. But that's who they are. And the Patriots, I still don't think they know who they are, because they having Jones do that often, I don't think that's who they want to be. So they're still figuring themselves out.
One thought, every game, the Giants aren't very good. The Falcons go on the road. Another road team, they get to win as a Koo's 40-yard field goal as time expires knocks the Giants. It was an ugly scene up there. They're booing the owner. You have Eli Manning getting recognized. He's trying to wave to try to get the boos to stop. The Giants have a big mess up there.
They do. And the thing is, Joe Judge, I think, is a better coach than what he's getting credit for. They've got a lot of problems. Every one of the receivers, Shepard, Galladay, and Slayton, are all battling hamstring issues. You've got Evan Ingram battling a calf injury. I mean, their receiving corps is doing terrible. Park is looking better, so that's who they wanted to center this offense around. But they just got a lot of problems. The thing is, if you're the Giants, though, and you want to play the type of ball they do, you need to have an elite offensive line. You need to have an elite offensive line coach, and I don't think they have either. And that's why I question their team building, because if you don't want to build around the running game, and you don't have a good offensive line, you need to start over.
This is fun. One thought every game. Let's go to another road team winning. This time it's the Bengals. You don't see the Bengals win at Pittsburgh all that often. A lot of questions about Ben Roethlisberger. They couldn't move the ball. He did throw 58 times. That's not too smart.
No, and they were trying to not have him throw the ball a lot this year, but they've got a first-year offensive line coach. Again, I keep bringing this up because offensive line coaches can make such a difference in the league. They've got a first-year offensive line coach. He looks overmatched in his job, at least right now. They've got injuries now also all across their team, and they can't run the ball, and you don't want Ben throwing the ball that often. His arm looks like it's toast already, at least on vertical passes. So I think the Steelers, mind you, they've got – but they got Green Bay coming up this week. They got Seattle coming up in a couple weeks. They could head into their Week 7 bye, maybe 2-4, depending on how they play against Denver. They might even be 1-5 going into that bye.
Yikes! All right, let's go. One thought every game. Cardinals 3-0. Another road team wins as the Cardinals go to Jacksonville. They beat the Jaguars. The Jaguars got a 109-yard touchdown return on a 68-yard field goal attempt that came up short, but too much Kyler Murray in the end. And these are games, are the Cardinals for real? You go on the road and lose a game against this? Well, they dominated.
And they had Hopkins was banged up too. They go in there without their top receiver at full strength, and they still dominate. Although Kingsbury, he should have known better than to kick that kind of field goal. The kick six happened to Alabama, Auburn. It happened in that game because when you kick that kind of a long field goal, you've got all these blockers on your line, and you can't get over to properly do what essentially is a kick return. You can't cover it that way. He should have known better than to try that kind of kick. You could do that if you got Tucker at the end of the game doing it. You can't do it in that situation.
All right, one thought every game. Let's go to Denver, a home team that actually won and won impressively, 26-0. I don't know if they won impressively or the Jets that unimpressive.
The Broncos know who they want to be. Repeating this theme, they know this is who we are. We've got Bridgewater. He's going to play percentage football in a way that Drew Lock wasn't. We've got a solid receiving core. We've got a solid tight end. We've got a two-headed running back scheme that can do very well for us. We don't have to wear either of our backs out. We play very good defense. And the Jets, Zach Wilson, he should not be a starting quarterback in the NFL right now. They should have given him a year to learn, and they didn't give him that. And he is showing why sometimes young quarterbacks who have very limited college experience do very badly in the beginning of their NFL careers.
All right, one thought every game. Let's go to Vegas, where the Raiders are now 3-0. They beat the Dolphins, who fall to 1-2. Derek Carr, another big game there, and obviously this was a slugfest that the Raiders go to 3-0 with a win.
I think the Raiders kind of overlooked this matchup. I think they said, we're playing a backup quarterback on the road, because I figured that they would actually cover in that contest. They were favored by 4. I figured that they would play better, but they came out early, and you could just see they were like, oh, wow, we expect the Dolphins to quit. It's like, this is a Brian Flores team. They're not going to quit. They're going to fight hard. They're going to try. They're going to put together a creative game plan. You're going to have to beat them. So kudos to the Raiders for getting the win, but this is the sort of thing where you can't play to the other team's talent level or give them by like that, because if they do that down the road, they're going to get a couple losses.
One thought every game. This is probably the most entertaining game of the day. The Rams 34, the Bucks 24. We talked about it on Friday. How are the Rams a dog at home? Well, they showed you why they shouldn't be a dog at home, and they really came out. That was a great game. Buccaneers kind of tried to make it close in the end. Brady, 55 passes, 432 yards, but not enough. Deshaun Jackson, hey, he's healthy and scoring long touchdowns.
It's not fair to give that offense to Sean Jackson. I mean, you've got Cooper Kupp. They've not even used, I covered that in the Athletic article today, they've barely used Robert Woods. I mean, Robert Woods is a top flight receiver. He's a top, if he's not a top 10 receiver, he's a top 15 receiver. He's that good. They're barely using him. They're getting Higbee involved. They get Deshaun Jackson. Cooper Kupp is a phenom right now. He's doing a fantastic job on short passes and vertical passes. I mean, that offense, and think about it, that offense is missing their top running back. Now they're on a third string running back, and they can put up this much against Tampa Bay. And speaking of which, Tampa Bay's defense, that secondary is in really bad shape. They're not playing well, and this is not the Tampa Bay defense of 2020.
All right, one thought every game, another entertaining game. Actually, that not to the Sunday night one. Let's go look at one before that. Seattle goes on the road. I don't know. Are there some questions about Russell Wilson? All of a sudden, the Vikings put up 30, but the Seahawks offense gets shut out in the second half.
They do, and last year they tried to play that kind of, we're getting to shootout mode, and we'll see how that goes, and it worked well for about the first 5 games. And then they had a 4-game stretch. They had 10 turnovers. They lost 3 out of 4. And Pete Carroll said, whoa, we can't do this. We got to go back to our running game selves. And they've been trying to ride the line between those two approaches this year. And I think that Pete Carroll needs to step in and say, we're just going to go back to that. Because, look, Minnesota's got a terrible defense. They played awful this year. And yet look what they did. They shut them out the second half. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, this is a team that's going to have to get into a lot of shootout games, though, because their schedule is just, as I wrote about saying, the Athletic, they've got this tremendously high-powered schedule down the road. So Minnesota's going to have to keep winning games like this. But if they can hold powerful offenses down to 17, they may be a playoff contender.
All right, let's get the Sunday night game in. This one was the entertaining one I referenced there. Aaron Rodgers, don't give him the ball with any time left on the clock. Garoppolo went down and said, "You question me?" He leads him onto a drive. People were chanting for Trey Lance, and Garoppolo did get him into the end zone, but he got him in there too early. And the Packers go on the road, a place they've struggled, Casey.
There's a great book, a great coaching book. I forget the name of it. John Ross, I think it is. He wrote, it's called Football Clock Management. He wrote this book 30 years ago, and he basically said, once you get a lead, you should always be trying to play the clock. And he talks about when you get to game situations like that, you should always be trying to run the clock out. If you're getting to that situation, just don't get the other team the ball back. That's your best situation. It's not like that they didn't have a good kicker who they could rely on to kick the field goal. They should have gone ahead and said, we're going to get the ball down. We should have pulled a Westbrook down the ball at the 1 yard line, go kick the field goal, win the game, and they didn't. And that's on San Francisco's coaching, that you guys had an opportunity to win and then hope that you could stop Aaron Rodgers, which is a low percentage play.
All right, that's one thought on every Week 3 game. Casey Joyner will be back on Friday with a one thought on every Week 4 matchup, including the Eagles and the Chiefs, who are 1-2 all of a sudden. The Eagles, are they going to be 1-2 after tonight? Casey Joyner, Dallas 1-1, Philadelphia 1-1. The game's in Dallas. Got some interesting stats before you make this pick. Are you ready?
Yes.
Dallas, 4-point favorite, 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games when they're favored. They're 9-2 in their last 11 games when favored against Philadelphia. Something has to give there. Philadelphia has lost 3 straight versus NFC East teams. It's their longest losing streak in the division going back to 2016. So, what gives?
What gives is the Eagles, they ought to be a run-heavy, throw vertical onto the counterpunch and a defensive team because Jonathan Gannon, as mentioned earlier, they're doing a fantastic job. Philadelphia ranks 5th in scoring drive percentage. They're 3rd in yards per play. They're 2nd in pass yards per attempt. They're 12th in pass pressure rate, tied for 2nd in points allowed. You'd think that's what they should be, but I think Dallas is going to test them and try to make them, try and get this into a shootout game. I think Dallas is going to be somewhat successful in that because Philly's going to try and throw the ball, and when they do, it's not going to work out for them. So I think this game's going to be close because the Eagles defense is so good, but you've got a Monday night matchup in Dallas and you've got the Dallas offensive edge. I think they get a slight one of this one, so I'm going to pick Dallas.
Right. Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles have not played on Monday night since, did you know this? 2008 was the last time these two teams played on Monday Night Football. It was the night when Deshaun Jackson didn't quite reach the end zone and the ball came flying out. Yep. And the Eagles lost that high scoring 41-37, if memory serves me on that. All right, Casey Joyner is back on Friday with one thought on every Week 4 game, and that'll be fun because Week 4 will be Eagles and Chiefs. We'll see what happens tonight, Casey. All right, so here's the question before you roll. Okay. And make sure you check out Casey Joyner at The Athletic and in the Philadelphia Inquirer at KC Joyner TFS on Twitter. Are you going game or Manning cast for Eagles Cowboys tonight?
I am going Manning cast. It is must-see TV. I'm going to date myself here. You go back in the day. If you want to get and see why Monday Night Football is what it is today, go back and watch Howard, Frank, and Don Meredith. Go watch their interaction back in the early 70s or some things on YouTube. That's what it was. That's why Monday Night Football became what it was. That's what it's like watching the Mannings. It is as compelling to listen to them call the game as it is to watch the game. I will spend every minute watching the Mannings.
Now, I would like to do like a Sunday afternoon where like the two of us do a YouTube and we just talk about what we're watching. I think that would be great. We'll do our own Casey cast. How about that? I know there's a guy listening and watching this right now because he just sent me a screenshot of us two talking that he's watching. I know he would love to produce the Casey cast on Sunday. There we go.
Well, I had to give you the view from the other side. You have to see the multiple TV show. I got quite the setup here to watch things, so it would be a lot of fun. I'd love to do that.
One thought on every game, every Sunday. Casey Joyner, you're the best, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, Casey Joyner here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. He is brought to you by Cape Regional Health System. For a healthier life, call 469-463 Cape. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. How cool would that be? You know, we'd have Casey Joyner doing the Casey cast on Sundays. We'll just be on YouTube, the two of us, doing one thought on every game, but the whole day. What are you watching over there? Now, Casey lives in Jacksonville, I think, or Orlando, somewhere near there. Jacksonville, Orlando. He's down there. He would be watching Red Zone probably. I'm not a Red Zone guy. Huh? Yeah, you know what's funny? Yesterday I was in the car. I was driving home from Boston. So I was driving, so I couldn't watch the games per se, but I had the red zone on. Now I realize YouTube TV does now have the red zone. Although, have you heard YouTube TV is thinking about getting rid of NBC Sports Philadelphia? I saw NBC Sports Philly actually tweet that out. That, hey, tweet at them to let, if you don't want to. So if they lose NBC Sports Philadelphia, I'm gonna have to get a new provider. I can't not have NBC Sports. I got to watch the games. Yeah, but they do have the red zone now. So yesterday while I was driving, I felt that the red zone was the best thing. Now I was listening to 98.5, the Sports Hub out of Boston. I was listening to it, but that game just did nothing for me. So I got off that game. You know what game I listened to on the radio? Was Kansas City and the Chargers, the game we had on. That's the game I listened to. I put that game on, and then at 4 o'clock, I kind of flipped over to the Phillies. They were down 3-0. And then I left that game and I went to, driving in the car and listening to games on the radio. It's just a nice experience. I mean, I like to watch the game more, but the fact that the Eagles didn't play yesterday and I was driving the car, just tuned the game in, it was just nice. I like listening to a game on the radio. Bucks and Rams, we gave that to you last night. We gave you Packers and 49ers. We gave you Chargers and Chiefs. And we're giving you Eagles and Cowboys tonight. Those games were all very entertaining. They were all down to the last play. Can we make it 4 games down to the last play? Find out tonight. Listen to the Eagles and Cowboys on 97.3 ESPN. Monday afternoon, game day. Don't forget game night tonight. Scott Grayson at 6:20. We'll have Grayson's grades tomorrow right here on the Sports Bash. Scott Grayson will grade the Eagles and the Cowboys over at 97.3 ESPN.com. But right now, 5:32 on a Monday, that means Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports is here giving his thoughts on the game tonight, the NFC East. Let's get into it here. Jeff Kerr, week 3 was a wild one. Let's start in New York, where the Giants fall to the Falcons. They are now 0-3, but you lose to that Falcons team. Ooh, they got big problems in New York.
They got a lot of problems, Mike. They got a lot of problems. And, that was one of my thoughts going into this weekend. I'm like, what happens if they lose to a lowly team like the Falcons, who we all thought was going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL? Well, the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL. It's not the Falcons. And, you had 10 days off. You want to blame the defense for their loss? I got news for you. Your all-world offense with your all-world free agent, Kenny Golladay, and your all-world running back, Saquon Barkley, and your terrible offensive line put up 14 points on 10 days rest. The Giants have a lot of issues, and that's what happens when you coach a team like a high school football team. You get high school results.
Well, that's a harsh way to put it there, but I like it, Jeff Kerr, as obviously they fall to that Atlanta team, which obviously Philadelphia beat up on them. That doesn't mean if Philadelphia plays New York, they're going to stomp on them, but they've got a lot of issues that need to be fixed there, and the Eagles don't play the Giants until way, way, way late in the year, so they could fix some things, but I don't know. Does this thing seem fixable, or are they looking for a 4 or 5 win season?
The Giants may be looking at 0-8, 0-9 right in the face, Mike. They're one of those teams where the schedule's not getting any easier. In fact, it gets harder. And, I was on the Carolina radio station today, and we were kind of laughing. I'm like, you guys are wondering if you can sustain this or not. 3 of your next games are against the NFC East, all teams that the Panthers may be better than. And one of them is the Giants. And, I'm looking around, and I'm thinking to myself, does New York have a winnable game in their next 5 or 6 games? And the answer is no. So the Giants really needed this one. They were like the Eagles. They needed to get off to a good start. They needed to get off to a 2-1 start and kind of build their brand a bit. Well, they might be looking at an 0-5, 0-6 hole again, and that has all the ingredients of a 5-6 win season again. And
Sign me up for it. Sign me up for it. I mean, it got ugly there yesterday, Jeff. They're booing the owner. I mean, you got Eli Manning Day yesterday, and the owner's talking. They're booing him. So it looks like it could get ugly up there.
The owner deserves to get booed, too. John Mara absolutely deserves to get booed. When you won only 18 games since the start of the 2017 season, 52 games since the start of the 2012 season, this is a franchise that it wasn't that long ago. I guess it is now. 10 years ago, they just won their second Super Bowl in 5 seasons, and, being the New England Patriots. And, I tried telling people that, as impressive as those championships were, they were more of lightning in a bottle from your quarterback and your defense. And, they kind of exasperated the real problem with that organization. And that was they were an average to above average team, and they never really got out of that hole. And now they can't draft at all. And look at them, Mike. They're with the Jets. They are the worst organization in the NFL right now. It's not good.
No, it's not. And guess what? Since 2017, they are the worst team in football, and it warms my heart. All right, let's go to Washington. They went to Buffalo and got their ass kicked yesterday. They gave up 42, Jeff Kerr. That defense is supposed to be one of the best in the league. What's going on?
Buffalo, Washington, Mike, was my stone cold lock of the week, if you will. I thought Buffalo was going to beat them. I didn't think it would be a that bad. If someone would have told me Josh Allen would have had 4 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, I would have said, okay, yeah, but against Washington, no, they have no pass rush. Their linebackers can't tackle. Their secondary can't cover. They just got beat up and down the field, and they had 10 days off. They had 10 days off to prepare for this Bills team. I didn't think they were going to win the game, but I thought they'd give them a challenge. Washington is a New York Giants football team a blunder away from being 0-3 themselves, and they got some real issues there. And quarterback's not it. Running back's not it. They need to get Curtis Samuel healthy. They need to get their offensive line better. I mean, again, it's not terrible, but it's not good. There's a lot of things in Washington that need to be fixed, and the main issue is that defense is supposed to be a top 5 defense, and they're a bottom 5 defense.
Well, for those if people didn't watch the game and they just saw that, and you're saying Tyler Heineke, how did he play yesterday? I mean, people are watching the tape and all of a sudden he's a problem, or was he not an issue yesterday?
I don't think he's an issue, but I don't think he's a solution either. I think you're getting what you're getting out of this guy. He's a little bit of a downgrade over Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he adds more to the offense because he's able to scramble. But again, you're not going to score 30 points a week with Taylor Heineke. You're not. And maybe you can with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but as long as that defense is playing as bad as they are, Mike, they're not going anywhere. And they are very lucky the loser of this Eagles-Dallas game is going to be 1-2, and they're only going to be one game out of the division because right now Washington's still alive, but their schedule doesn't get any easier either.
All right, Geoff Kerr, CBS Sports. Give me your thoughts tonight on no Mailata. That was obviously announced over the weekend. They're going to have to go with Andre Dillard. Concerns, or are you kind of like, listen, the guy was a first-round pick. Obviously, if somebody gets hurt and you're going to a guy who's a first-round pick, there could be worse options. The book has not been written on Dillard at all. It's such an unknown here.
I'm concerned about Andre Dillard, but this is the most ideal scenario for him. He's not going up against DeMarcus Lawrence or Nick Bosa this week. He's going up against probably Micah Parsons. And Dallas is going to throw Micah Parsons.
That doesn't sound fun.
No, it doesn't. But you got to remember, too, Micah Parsons had 8 pressures off Storm Norton, who is a backup by trade. Andre Dillard, as you said, Mike, he's a first-round pick. He's a guy that should be able to – look, Micah Parsons isn't going to bull rush this guy. Micah Parsons is going to try to beat him on the outside. That's one of the things Dillard is actually good against. This is a real challenge for Andre Dillard. This is where Jeff Stoutland gets to toot his horn and actually back up his words that Andre Dillard has actually been better than we think. And this is a chance for Andre Dillard to prove he is an NFL offensive lineman. Because
right, that's the interesting point, Jeff, is, obviously, Mailata's their guy, and it sucks that he's hurt for this game. But, man, if they want to think about getting anything in return for him, if he puts on a good showing tonight, that phone might ring.
Here's the other issue, Mike. If he plays well, do you hold it? Do you hold the phone and say, well, we want a better offer in this? Or do you keep him around because you're just not sure about the severity of Mailata's injury?
Well, that's a whole medical thing. How many weeks is this guy going to be hurt for? I mean, he gets rolled up on at practice. It's an MCL. I mean, obviously we saw the whole thing with Joel Embiid, and, I think it's a pain tolerance thing. You're right. But if he plays well, let's say he plays for 2-3 weeks and he plays well, it only ups his possible trade value. So if you're an Eagles fan, you're really hoping that Jordan Mailata goes out there and plays well tonight.
Yeah, the best case scenario for Andre Dillard, honestly, Mike, is he plays well for, like you said, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, if Mailata's out a month, a la Kevin Cobb in 2010, and you get to trade him for a second-round pick and, just move on. It's, honestly, the Eagles should seek.
Well, as we know, Jeff, offensive line play in this league is so bad that if Dillard just plays average, they might get calls on him.
You know who Myles Garrett had 4.5 sacks off of yesterday?
Myles Garrett against Jason Peters.
That is correct. So,
Jeff Kerr.
Lines.
Jeff Kerr, give me the matchup that worries you the most tonight.
Well, normally I'd say Andre Dillard versus Micah Parsons, but I actually think it favors Dillard. How about Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard versus the Eagles linebackers, who can't really tackle, but yet they've kind of overperformed my expectations, Mike. But this is a different animal here, but so is the 49ers, and they actually kind of contain the run game a bit. So is it a concern? Yes. That's one. The other one, I'll give it a tie. How about Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb versus Darius Slay and Steve Nelson, who, by the way, are really going to get challenged tonight, and they are probably the 2 best wide receivers these 2 cornerbacks will face all year. This is why you pay Darius Slay a lot of money. This is why you brought in Steve Nelson over 11 other teams that wanted his services to beat guys like Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. This is it right now. So Dak Prescott could go off tonight if these 2 don't do their job.
To me, this game is either Eagles win or they get blown out. I think that's the way it goes. They either win the game or they get blown out. I don't think this is like a close Cowboy win. I think either Philly wins or they get blown out. And the way they get blown out is what you just said. CeeDee Lamb, big night. The Eagles have not given up the big play yet this year. Nothing's gotten over the top yet. Tonight could be the night. We'll see. I want to see Jeff Kerr. I want to see Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz involved in the game tonight. Can you give me that?
I want to see that too, Mike. I mean, Zach Ertz is 40 yards for 2 games? Like, this whole tight end rotation has been invincible, and they don't run enough 12 personnel. And the week they should have last week, they didn't. And is this on Jalen Hurts? Is this on the tight ends? I don't know. And yeah, we got to see them involved in this game plan tonight. Because guess what? Dallas's linebackers, they over pursue. Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch have all of a sudden have trouble tackling. They all of a sudden have trouble covering people. You got to exploit this matchup big time tonight.
You know what their linebackers do, Jeff? They stink. The Dallas linebackers stink, and their line's banged up. Hey,
they overhyped them.
This is I don't know what if I said to you, is it a disappointment if you lose the game tonight as banged up as Dallas is, or if you lose, it's just kind of just tell you, maybe the Eagles aren't going to be all that good.
I'm a jerk, Mike. I think Dallas should win this game anyway. So
all right.
I'm one of those people that I'm
not being a jerk. That's being realistic.
Yeah, I'm not going to get my hopes up. Dallas should win this game. They're at home. They're the better football team. There's more pressure on them to win because, I mean, yeah, we say this is a must-win game for the Eagles. The only reason I think it's a must-win game for the Eagles is because you got Kansas City, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Oakland. They're your next 4 games. I mean,
the thing is, if you have any ideas of this season ending with a playoff game, you almost have to win this game tonight.
Exactly.
Facts.
If you want to win the NFC East, you have to beat the Dallas Cowboys tonight. Bottom line. They're still going to be in the division race, but it's going to be a lot easier if you're 2-1 and somehow you can find a way to win 1 or 2 of these next 4. Because then you're in the driver's seat because the Lions stink, the Bears stink, the Giants stink, Washington stinks. All of a sudden you're looking at, you know what? Maybe that 8-9 win season is going to come into fruition. Maybe even double digits.
Man, I don't know. Like this game tonight, because Kansas City, you're an underdog. Carolina on the road, you're probably a dog. Tampa Bay, you're a dog. At the Raiders, you're a dog. The Chargers, you're probably a dog. At Denver, you're probably a dog. New Orleans, And after that, you got all these division games. You got Giants, Jets, Washington, Giants, Washington, Dallas. So
they might close out the year winning 5 of their last 6. It's very possible.
Yeah, but you got to get one in the first half, and this one's got to be that one. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, at Jeff Kerr. CBS, are you watching the Manning cast tonight, or are you going Levy and the crew?
You know, I've been back and forth on this. I think I'm going to listen to the Manning cast, even though I probably should listen to the game broadcast because I am a stickler for old school like football. I'll tell you what, Mike, this is what I would love, but obviously this can't happen anymore. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf. Let's bring Frank back from the dead and let's have a real Monday Night Football game.
All right, Jeff Kerr's back on Wednesday. Thanks, Jeff.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, at Jeff Kerr, CBS. Follow him there. And Jeff Kerr's appearance is brought to you by the expert solar team of New Jersey, EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardians. Start your solar journey today. Learn more. Visit ESPNsolar.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Got a couple text messages I want to read off. I'll do that coming up on the other side as we wrap up this show. Plus, I'll read off some of your tweets to me at Mike Gill Show on my Twitter question the other day, which I asked you, your number one observation through 3 weeks is. I'll blast through those answers next. All right, time for the 5 as we make 5 points, observations, thoughts. Get out of here on a Monday night. All right, I asked you on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. Your number one NFL observation through 3 weeks is Glenn Wyatt says the Rams are an elite team. I like the Rams. They've been in my fine 5. They're going to move up. They were number 5 last week. Gunneth, I think I'm saying that right, says the Eagles are going to run the first round of the draft next year. That's an interesting point. Yeah, the Colts and the Dolphins are both not very good. The Eagles own both of their first-round picks next season. Bradley Morris says, and with the first pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Steelers are in the clock. I don't know that they're going to be the worst team in football. Mike Stafiri says the officiating is as bad as it's ever been. Standard. Kmart at K_Mar10 says the Matt Stafford trade worked for the Rams. Jeff says the AFC is wide open. It's funny because the next one was NFC better than the AFC. Martin says the Jets effed up again. Michael says the defense is back. At Mike Gill Show, tweet at me. Randy says, damn, the Jets are terrible. And Josh says, Dallas sucks. Well, I think that one is just being nice. We'll read off some more of those tomorrow here on the Sports Bash. Mike, I'm only 20 years old. I love listening to sports broadcasts on the radio. I'm right there with you. I prefer the game on TV, but listening to another team's broadcast on the radio has always been relaxing for me. Thanks for that tweet as well. Also got another text says, Mike, I just heard you saying that you were driving and flipping between the Phillies and football. I was doing the same while driving and got so much into the Chiefs game, I missed my exit on 55. Love games on the radio. Yep. I was like flipping back and forth between a couple of the football games, and then I went to the Phillies game. You're right. You get into the game. The guy who does the Chiefs game, they did a really good job on that game yesterday. They did a really good job, Chiefs and Chargers. I was listening to the actual Chiefs home broadcast. Speaking of which, the Phillies over at 97.3 ESPN.com, breaking down the Phillies and Braves playoff scenarios. I think it looks pretty bleak for the Phillies. Scenario 1, Phillies sweep the Braves. You need that to happen. I think for the most, even if you sweep the Braves, you probably are not, you're not guaranteed to get in anyway. If you sweep the Braves, the Phillies would have to go 2-1 against the Marlins, and the Braves would have to go 1-2 against the Mets. And then the Braves would be a half a game behind the Phillies. And the Braves would then have one extra game they would play on Monday. Yeah, that's how that would work. And then if they're tied, they would play one game for the division title. The Phillies, if they take 2 of 3 in Atlanta, the Braves would have to, if the Braves go 2-1 against the Mets, the Phillies would only make one game with a sweep of the Marlins. They would be half a game back. The Braves would then have to play the Rockies and see what happens in that game. Go to get all the scenarios over at 97.3 ESPN.com. There's 4 scenarios that can be in play for the game. Obviously, there's a game tonight. It's the Eagles and the Cowboys. How's it going to go? Well, I told you, Jeff Kerr, I should say, is I say either the Eagles win the game or Dallas blows them out. And I'm leaning more towards Dallas winning the game pretty handily. I'm going to go 35-14 Dallas tonight. 35-14 Dallas tonight. And I hope I'm wrong. As I said, I think either Dallas wins handily or Philadelphia wins. So don't be surprised if Philadelphia wins the game tomorrow, but my official pick will be Dallas 35, Philadelphia 14. I don't like that I feel that way. It is what it is, right? This will be the Cowboys' 83rd game on Monday Night Football. It's the first time since 2008 these two teams will meet on Monday night. We'll be back tomorrow. Josh has game night coming up next. Scott Grayson is here, and Scott Grayson will be with me tomorrow for Grayson's Grades. Hopefully, all enjoy the game tonight. You can hear it only right here on 97.3 ESPN, your home for Eagles football.